Hello, everyone. Welcome to Enter the Unfamiliar on this very Hallows Eve, Halloween night, falling on a Sunday. Very interesting day for it to be falling on a Sunday. Doesn't happen often. Yet here we are, Halloween night 2021. And if you're out trick or treating, well, I guess you wouldn't be if you're listening to this show, but stay safe out there and only get the good candy, the peanut butter and chocolate kind, the Reese's peanut butter cups. That's my candy of choice on Halloween. But welcome everyone. We have a good show tonight. I had to for Halloween, and I've talked about the last couple weeks trying to get them on. So we have Pete. Creepy Little Book is here with us tonight, and Drew should be here tonight. So hopefully he will stop in a little bit. And I did talk to Flip. I know you guys always ask, and he's been very busy. But we talked today, and we'll have him back on very soon. He's just been very busy with stuff, and he's got the kids tonight trick or treating. And he's also has some stuff going on. He's got to get up early in the morning on Mondays. So we're going to work something out, but he definitely wants to come back on. And he misses you guys. And I expressed to him that you always ask how he is and where he's been. So I just wanted to let you know on that. His family's good. So everything seems to be good with him. But so thank you for joining us tonight. I already see someone named Shadow Band Man. Oh, I think I recognize that face. I recognize that Weird Al face anywhere. Welcome, Shadow Band Man. Hello to you too. Let's see here. Oh yes. I don't usually. I've been not using my camera, Pete, because Pete's asking me backstage. He said I can't see you. I am a shadow myself. My camera seems to, when I have guests on or I'm sharing something, it seems to freeze up. So I haven't really been using it. But you know what? Maybe I'll try to turn it on in a minute here. We'll see how it goes. Because it has been a couple weeks since I've used it. Just kept freezing up, and Toolbat over there was always calling me out on having my 8-bit graphics going. So I just decided, you know what, I'll do like an old radio show, and I mean it's kind of the theme anyway. And I haven't been using the camera, but maybe I'll turn it on tonight. I'll see if I can get it to work. But thank you guys for joining us. Enzo, welcome. Then thank you very much for a good show tonight. Yes, I'm looking forward to it as well. RR, welcome, RR. Thank you for being here as always. I am a bit of a shadow man myself. I see Pete backstage. We were talking backstage, and we just started getting into these topics. I'm like, we gotta be live talking about this because this stuff's too good to not share with you guys. So we're gonna get them on in just a minute. The spammer shields, yeah, Enzo. That was a couple weeks ago when I got spam attacked by those bots who were in love with that the wrestling manager, and we couldn't stop them. There was nothing we could do. It was just nonstop, just spamming the chat, and no one could get a word in. And I mean, that was all it was. It wasn't any more detrimental than that. But yeah, it was kind of weird. And I don't know if it's been happening to anyone else. I think Drew did say he got it. He'd seen it happen to a couple other people. But yep. It happened. It's very weird. Oh yeah, there you guys are talking about. Yeah, couldn't stop it. Drew couldn't stop it. I couldn't manage it from the being the holder on the channel, the manager of the channel. I couldn't even really stop it. I would have had to turn the whole chat off. So, it was funny. I mean, it wasn't weird. They weren't saying anything harmful. So whatever. Augie, welcome, Augie. I don't think I've seen your name before. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Oh, Sporking got hit with it. Yeah, see, they're making their rounds. There you go. Your notification worked. Good, because I know it wasn't working for quite a while. So I'm glad that worked for you, and that it actually alerted you to the fact that I was going live. Small time, hail to you, small time. Good to see you, Stig. What's up, Stig? How you doing? I'm doing well. It's nice to see you here. Hope you're doing well over there too, Stig. It's been a while. Good to see you. And let's see, anyone else? Oh yeah, floating hat. Well, that's, it's funny you're talking about the hat because, one of the topics tonight, the shadow people, one of the famous ones is this mysterious hat man. So, it's an interesting thing. It's just happens to be, I guess, it's a little, I don't know, serendipitous, ironic that I do wear a hat. at most times. So that works out well. Thank you for the super sticker. $1.99. Deranged Lunatic. Thank you for that super sticker. And I like your Frankenstein. I would say I was asked if that's just for Halloween, but I'm guessing it's since your name is Deranged Lunatic, it's probably you use that picture all the time. So very nice, very nice. Thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate it. From Creepy Little Book. What's from Creepy Little Book? He's here. We'll ask him when he comes on. Zax, what's going on? Welcome, Zax. Welcome to you. Good to see you here. Thank you for joining us. And Muggsy Hillaby. Hi, let's all get creepy. Yeah, that's his line. That's his line. All right. Well, let's bring him out because I don't want to keep him backstage anymore. Welcome. Welcome, my friend.
Good evening. How do you do?
I do. Welcome.
Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here. Having a good time. It is Halloween, and I know we're going to tear it up.
Oh yeah, we usually do. We usually have great talks that. Well, we were talking backstage, and I guess backstage, and we just started going off on different topics, and it had nothing to do with the shadow people, which was the technically the topic of the night. But you guys in the chat know we get off topic all the time, and it just somehow all ties together anyway. So. I thought let's just go live and start talking about this. Before that though, Pete, do you have any like Halloween memories or anything, a specific Halloween memory that you have, someone you celebrate, or anything that sticks out about Halloween?
I remember some very interesting parties from my time as a singer in a band. During my teens and 20s and into my 30s, I was a singer in like 2 bands.
Okay.
And so there were always Halloween shows. There were always Halloween parties. I particularly remember one at a sorority in the late 90s. I think they were Phi Theta Kappa or something like that. I'm not sure. But it was a fraternity of like goth kids and theater kids and, punk rockers and stuff like that. So like at least down at University of Penn back then. And they had a themed Halloween party where each room was serving a different drink in the sorority house. And I distinctly recall having a delicious mulled cider at that party. I also met a young lady named Spider.
A young lady named Spider. Oh, okay. Very, very interesting.
Yes.
Good name for a Halloween party. Was that her actual name, or was that just her name of the night?
That's what people called her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that was Halloween every night to her.
Yeah. Well, when you live that lifestyle, it almost is Halloween every day.
It almost is. Well, there's are you familiar with the band Typo Negative?
Oh, absolutely.
So the song Black Number One, off their second album, was basically about Peter Steele, who's the lead singer of the band, dating this girl or falling in love with this girl that was completely goth.
Oh, okay.
Is her perfume smells burning leaves every day is Hallows Eve, and it was that idea that like, there are people that just live that, Gothic Halloween is their thing. It's not like a holiday; it's their life. I'm guessing that was Spider. Spider had the same mentality there.
At the time, absolutely. Yeah. Wouldn't know what happened to her after all these years, but let's hope that wherever the young lady wound up, she's doing well.
Yeah. And did you bob for some apples in that mulled spiced apple cider?
I don't believe there was any apple bobbing going on.
something else going on. We'll stop there. Lambda. Was it Lambda?
That's Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, exactly. Lambda.
Those tri-lambs, they're at it again.
Tri-lambs, yeah. Yeah, did you ever have like a favorite Halloween costume that you dressed up as when you were younger or, older?
I did a really good Freddy Krueger at one point in my 20s. I did a really great Freddy Krueger. I did Jesus one year.
Oh. You're growing the hair out for that right now. And the beard.
Yeah, oh my hair was even longer than it was then.
Yeah.
So I did Jesus one year. I did a good Freddy Krueger. One year we went as my band dressed up as the Misfits, and I put on a Crimson Ghost outfit.
Oh, that's
So we
great.
took a bunch of pictures with them all done up like the Misfits, and those were cheap costumes for us. Everybody had leather jackets, and everybody had black hair dye, so it was real easy to do. The
Yeah. Did you
Crimson
do
Ghost outfit was
the
really
devil
cool.
lock and everything?
Oh God, yeah.
Or did they? Yeah. That's yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was all done up. It was all done up.
Oh, nice. And
Good
you did
times,
you're the
man.
Crimson
Good
Ghost. That's
times.
cool. Now, did you
Yeah.
get a mask, or did you do like your face as the makeup of the Crimson
I
Ghost? How
applied
did you?
makeup
Okay, yeah.
like
That's
latex,
impressive.
like latex
Oh, wow.
prosthetics. Yeah, I
Oh,
really did
wow.
it up.
Man,
I
yeah,
used to
that's pretty
love
good.
Halloween like crazy,
Mhm.
partying and all the stuff that goes along with that. But I don't party so much these days, so
Yeah, well,
that was a different time, a different place.
yeah,
This is a young man's
yep.
game. Young man's game.
Right, you tend to get older and, that's
You
the
know.
partying. Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we watched the latest Halloween Kills, we just watched that today,
Mhm.
and then we went out to the grocery store, the bakery, and got 2, little pumpkin cookies, and we're like, "This is how we're celebrating Halloween nowadays." We used to get dressed up. We'd go to there I'm in, like, LA, so there's a huge parade. Now they haven't done it. They didn't do it last year, and they canceled it
Right.
again this year because of the pandemic, so they canceled it. But I mean, we used to get dressed up and go there, and you'd see, I mean, it was thousands of people all along Santa Monica Boulevard, like from one end to another. And it was, you'd see the most crazy. I mean, you get like people dressed up in everyday stuff, but then you would see like Hollywood is right here. So you'd see
Right.
Hollywood type makeup and costumes and prosthetics, walking down the street, and you're like, oh my God, like how, just, you're like, I might as well just go home and take this costume off. It's pointless now because it's
Well,
so
it's a great
impressive. Some of these
opportunity
people.
for some of those FX houses to showcase their talents and their
Yeah,
abilities. So
that's
you got
true.
to figure they highlight their work every year at something like the Halloween parade.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. 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 And it gets a lot of press too. So, I mean, they do get out there because there's, the papers take pictures. It's all over the internet. It's in print. I mean, it's a huge event, the parade. And yeah, so, but that, like you said, it's a young man's game. Hello, Tina. Thank you for joining us. Tina, good to see you.
Tina
Uh,
Tawazuski.
Tina's in the house. But yeah,
Good to see you, Tina.
it's a young man's game, or a young
It is
person's
a young
game, I
man's
should say.
game. That's
Yeah.
that's why I focus my energies on other things like delving into the mysterious,
Mhm.
delving into the strange.
That's right.
I mean, it was something that was always a part of my life, but not to the degree that it is now, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
still fun to, I still love watching the movies and, all that stuff, getting in the little spirit of things.
Yeah.
You carve the jack-o'-lantern. It's fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, we used to, when I was in New York, we used to throw huge parties every year. But that was, I was in college or out of college, I was in my 20s. And it was like
Exactly.
epic Halloween parties. And, I actually did dress up one year. I did a Michael Graves, who was, the
Oh, very
replacement
cool.
singer.
Yeah.
Misfits. Yeah, I did the Michael Graves makeup and did, got the skeleton costume and everything.
I
So that
was
was
just
that was
listening
cool.
to Dig Up Her Bones before I clicked the
I
link to
love
jump on
that song.
StreamYards here. Great tune.
Oh, that's great. Oh yeah, yeah, I love that song. Yeah, that's funny. I was like, singing that in my head a couple days ago, over that, just getting in the mood. I was that specific song popped in my head, and I was like, oh, that's such a great song.
Well,
Yeah, Dig Up
American
Her
Psycho is
Bones.
a great album. I mean, they're the best
It
Misfits
is.
cover band that ever existed.
Yeah, the best Misfits cover band. Yeah, that's good.
I think
Yeah,
the Michael Graves Misfits are the best Misfits cover band ever.
yeah, that's well
And
said.
I
Well
opened for
said.
the Misfits once back when I was playing
Did you
music.
really?
I opened them for
No
them.
kidding.
We did this event back in
Was that during the
2001.
Michael Graves? Oh, it was then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. No, you know what? I think it was after.
Because
It was
I think the second
2001, so I think
famous.
he was out of the band
Oh,
by then. It
maybe
was
he
just Jerry
left.
only.
Yeah, he might have left in 2000. Yeah, you know what? The Famous Monster album came out, I think, in 99 or 2000, and he did like that tour and then left to join the army, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Some weird thing like that.
But yeah, we opened
That's
for
cool.
1
So
year.
tell us
It
about
was a
that.
big fundraiser for AIDS research.
Oh, okay.
And it was called the Cure Fest. It was put together by this young lady I knew by the name of Veronica, and she had reached out to the Misfits, got them involved. She put on it was like a all day kind of concert. Started very early. There was like 20 different bands. It was just really awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool. Did you get to meet him?
No, they said we were too loud. We were making too much noise for them. They didn't want to. They want to party.
That's when you know the Misfits got old.
And they left to go to the gym.
Oh, well, I could see that. I mean, Doyle is like a, human freak.
Oh, he's a beast. The guy's a
nature.
beast.
Yeah,
He's like 60 years old and he's jacked.
Yeah.
It makes me ashamed of myself.
There's no way it's natural. I mean, it has to be. He's got to be on the juice, but
I have no idea. I have no
he's
idea
gotta
at
be.
this point
It's
because
gotta
he's in
be.
really good shape. Unless it's dark magics. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, because he is. They got to be. You think? Are they 60 already? I mean, they got to be close. They got to be in their mid to late 50s, if not 60 already.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danzig too. I mean, he's up there. I got to see. I mean, I've seen the Misfits a few times. I never got to open for him, but I did see them a few times live with Michael Graves, and then after, with just Jerry only. They were playing with, I think, Marky Ramone at one point on drums. I got to see them then, and then I saw Danzig a few times when he toured with Doyle. And
I saw the
Doyle
Danzig Doyle tour too. That
Yeah.
was incredible because
That
Danzig
was.
did his set
Uh-huh.
and then leaves, and then everybody goes crazy because you heard rumors Doyle's on tour with him. Like
Yep.
it was supposed to be a secret,
Yeah.
And then they come out and they do 45 minutes of Misfit songs.
Yeah. All
All
old school Misfits.
It was absolutely incredible. Like just nothing but Misfit songs. And Danzig was in much better shape then.
Yeah.
Than he is now.
Mm-hmm.
When the Misfits reunited with Danzig, they were playing up in Newark. And my buddy up in Niagara Falls was like, why aren't any of you going? Because the whole crowd in Philly, like people that we were expecting to go, was like, dude, I'm not paying that price to watch that old man sing those songs.
I did. My brother and I went. We went to the Hollywood show.
I wasn't gonna do it. Like I wasn't gonna watch that old man spell out those tunes. Like I wasn't gonna pay. I was gonna drive. I wasn't gonna pay.
Yeah,
not happening. Get out of here.
You could definitely tell. I mean, we had to go because we just had to see them, the original three. But yeah, you could definitely tell that Danzig did not. He just doesn't have the voice. I mean, not that his voice was ever that great anyway, but at least he had the energy, and it was lacking a little bit.
Yeah, he's just not in the kind of shape. Like if he was in the shape that Doyle's in, then he would be doing all right.
Yeah,
but he's just not in any kind of shape.
And he was at one point. I mean,
he was a beast at one point.
Yeah. Late 90s, mid to late.
That's
90s.
the thing, dude. That's my new goal. I got to be a beast. I want to get Richard Greer buff.
Oh yeah,
Dr. Stephen Greer. That's who I'm thinking of.
Man.
Stephen Greer.
I
want to get buff like Dr. Stephen Greer. He's got the head of a doctor and the body of a wrestler. That's what I need going on over here.
Yeah, it's like disconcerting looking at him because you think he's this kind of nerdy scientist guy, and then like he's flexing. It's like this guy's jacked. His body doesn't match his head.
He's juiced up. He's all big and giant. He's crazy.
It's all the experiments that the aliens out in the desert.
CE5 out there. He's talking to the aliens and make his muscles bigger. He's like Lou Ferrigno out there.
Lou Ferrigno. Yeah. Have you ever thought about doing that?
What, CE5 or juicing up with Lou Ferrigno?
No,
I'm not doing CE5. I'm not opening my mind to channeling because what if it works? Then I'm getting all these weird messages from space aliens.
I say. Yeah, Citizen asked, "Is he a reptilian?" There was, that's one of those internet conspiracy theories that goes around that he's himself as a hybrid. I don't believe so.
No, he's too big.
Yeah,
he's ready to fight the reptilians when the time comes.
Yeah, in case he channels the wrong one, he's got to throw down.
Yeah, he's going to use his mind abilities to call Zeta Reticulum Greys, and he's going to put arm locks on all the reptilians. RR says, I'm going to get thicker. Yeah, dude, I want to get swole. I want to get all gigantic.
Are you working out? Do you have a home gym that you're using to become Stephen Greer big?
No, actually, I just started the keto diet.
Oh, you're gonna slim down then.
So I'm trying to slim down and then bulk up.
That's right.
So we're gonna do one then the other.
First. Right. Yeah.
Slim down first, then bulk up. That's how it goes. So I did keto before and I lost 60 pounds.
Wow, 60 pounds.
60 pounds, man. I was on it for months though. Like I was on it for maybe 4 or 5 months. Wow. And I lost like 60 pounds because I blew up. If you look at some of my older videos, I'm like this 200-pound mess. I'm just like this slovenly pig man who's like, "Can I tell you about the flying humanoids?" Like through my jowls. It's just a mess. It's an absolute mess.
You had to get Richard Gere or Richard Gere. Well, either one. Stephen Greer, Richard Gere. Either they're both in good shape.
Mothman prophecies. Get the Mothman prophecies. Tina points out that I got a plan. I'm turning around. I do have a plan. I have a plan. I'm cutting out some of this. I'm introducing some healthy shakes. We're going to turn it all around. I want to devote my life to health and fitness. That's what I want to do.
That's a noble cause. It's tough to stay on keto that long too. I mean, that's impressive that you did it for months. You know, it's because it's
just months and months,
anything really.
It became the way that I like. You had to change the way you eat. You know, like completely. Yeah. The problem is that once I lost all the weight, I was like, okay, I guess I can eat all this pizza. You know, like I'm skinny. I've earned it. I can eat all this pizza. You know,
right? That's your reward.
Yeah, my reward for getting skinny for losing all the weight again. Yeah, it's totally ruined it.
Gain it right back.
So I got a closet full of clothes I don't fit in. I refuse to get rid of because I know I can get back into that weight. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to do it. Just you watch.
Yeah, there you go. That's a goal though. You know, you have the clothes you don't fit into anymore, and say if I ever want to wear that shirt again, got to stick to that keto.
You got to keto it up. You got to do that.
Oh, there you go. Esoteric fitness books.
The secrets of getting swole.
Yeah. Channeling.
I like it. I saw something like that. It was supposed to be a VHS, and it was a dude doing a sit up with a pentagram behind him. It was very much like the unholy secrets of getting ripped abs or something like that.
The unholy.
It wasn't real, but it was like, it was about esoteric fitness. I think you could probably sell an esoteric fitness book. Somebody could do it.
Oh,
maybe I could. Who knows? Maybe.
I think, I think there's honestly probably an audience out there for just about anything.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God.
I don't think there's much that you couldn't find an audience for to sell. The craziest thing, esoteric fitness, you'd be able to find someone. You know, I mean, I have my questions about some of the yoga stuff. You know, that's already kind of esoteric. I mean, they package it as, you know, in America is much different. But if you look at the history of yoga, and you know, it's very centered around the occultic practices, or you know, ancient philosophies, and a lot of serpentine type. You know, was it the kind of
Kundalini?
Kundalini, yeah. I mean, that's like your Kundalini. Serpent. You know, your serpent, the
rising serpent in your spine,
right? That goes through your spine.
Yeah. You open up them chakras, get that mind chakra open up, crack that pineal gland, and see the fourth fucking dimension.
See, you've already got the intro to your book right there. You're so
you can be your. What you want to do is put the crystals in your water and then stir it up. Then you unleash the power of the crystals into your water.
Yep. Yeah, you got it all down. Thank you, Bone, for the super sticker. I can't see it because StreamYard has to switch this. They have to let you see what people are sending because I don't know. I just see it's a super sticker. But thank you very much, $4 super sticker. But it never lets me know what it is. Yeah, so it's sort of annoying.
It's a little doji.
Thank you.
Handing you a bone with a bow on it.
Oh, well, I don't know how to take that, but I appreciate it. I appreciate that, Bone, because it's Bone. His name is Bone. So he's handing me a bone with the ribbon on. Thank you. Thank you. I also accept the Doji, whatever it's called, doggy cryptocurrency as well. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. If swole for more than 4 hours, seek a physician immediately. If swole for more than 4 hours. That's the goal, though. You know, that's the problem with working out. You get like pump, you know, you get your pump, and then within like 45 minutes, you just unswell. You know, you feel like strong, and you're looking.
That's why those guys, they do that dehydration, and then they pump, and like, you know, like for these guys who are in the movies, when you think about Hugh Jackman or Chris Helmsworth, any of these celebrities, who's another good one? Aquaman. Jason Momoa.
Yeah. Or Henry Cavill.
Think about these guys who are well known for their physiques. Oh, Henry Cavill, he's another good one. Superman.
Yeah.
You know, these dudes, not only are they training for umpteen hours a day to get their bodies in that peak physical condition, but before they go and shoot these scenes, they do a dehydration regimen to get themselves all tight and vascular.
Mm-hmm.
And they're depriving themselves of of water basically to look insanely incredibly good. But it's only for those shots. They don't look like that normally all the time. Now, of course, they're in great shape no matter what. But some of these movie scene shots are just so like perfect examples of how sculpted a man can be. That they're a testament to the work that went into it. Definitely.
Yeah, I was reading an article about Sylvester Stallone when he filmed Rocky 3. He was incredibly cut in that movie, and he said that he had basically starved himself severely, and he was working out like he said he was working out what 8 to 10 hours a day. Like he'd do 4 hours in the morning and then take break, film, and we're talking like he'd get up at like 4 in the morning and work out till 8 or something, then film, and then he would work out again in the afternoon, and he was starving himself. So he'd almost killed him. He said he had to go to the hospital, and when he got there, they're like, you can't do. You're going to die. Your heart's going to give out on you because you're pushing your body so much, but you're not giving it any kind of nutrition. It almost killed
Mm-hmm.
him for that movie. I mean, he does the best physique he's ever been in, but he almost died because of it.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
crazy. It's crazy.
it's tough for the celebrity expectations, I guess, with these, especially the superhero movies, because you got to look beyond ripped. You have to look beyond the normal guy on the street who's working out a lot. You got to look beyond Stephen Greer. You got to be, you
Yeah,
got to be at a different
absolutely. I
level.
mean, you got to be in some kind of shape that's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
Just
it's tough.
unbelievable. Just unbelievable. It is. It is. It's unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, but I guess that's why they get paid, multiple millions of
That's
dollars.
where they're getting the big bucks, baby. Show
Yep,
off them muscles. Show
yep.
off, pump those abs.
He did have some scrawny legs, Enzo says. Well, yeah, but he's also like 5 foot. I mean, he's not a big guy. He's a smaller, he's shorter. I mean, not small. He's very wide. I actually got to meet him about a couple years ago, and he's big though. He's wide in person. He looks jacked, but he's short. He's not a big guy. He's not a big guy, but I am the Shadow Band Man. I am the Shadow Band Man. Well, let's see here. We were talking before we went on, just about some just the random, just your everyday run of the mill
Just shoot in the
paranormal
breeze.
supernatural topics, and uh, so I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. We did a story or a show on the black-eyed kids. Are you familiar with that? Because I think tonight's the shadow people, and we're kind of going through the urban legends. We did a show just on urban legends a few weeks ago, and then last week I thought, okay, we did a Bigfoot show after that. Then we did the black-eyed kids. I thought today would be shadow people, but they're kind of, it's all sort of related. But first, what's your take on the black-eyed kids? I'm sure you're familiar with them. What's your take
Oh,
on them?
absolutely. Now, look, if they exist, and I postulate that all these things exist until proven otherwise, they seem like some kind of
Yeah, I agree.
entity intent on getting into your home. They seem like they are hell bent on entering your
Mhm.
house, but they can't do so unless being invited,
Yeah.
which leads me to believe there might be some vampiric quality to them.
Mhm.
If we take into account the old lore and legends of vampires being unable to come into your home unless being, invited, then
Right.
then that possibility exists with these creatures as well. Now, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say we're dealing with child Draculas, but I would suggest that these could be some kind of manifestations of the demonic in some manner where they are able to corporealize themselves into a physical manifestation to interact with the physical world. Obviously, they're knocking on doors, they're trying to get in, they're able to vocalize. I don't think that these are flesh and blood creatures. I think they're able to obtain solidity,
Mhm.
obtain some kind of corporeal form, but I don't think they can hold it. I
Yeah.
think it's a brief manifestation.
I tend to agree there. So I think they are, like you said, either a manifestation of the demonic, or interdimensional. They're somehow able to pop in and out of our reality, because you hear of there's stories that are out there where these things okay, so there's two interesting stories. One, we talked about these a couple weeks ago. One, the entities, had like knocked on the door, and they were, it was the guy was in the car. They knocked on the car, and they were there, very physical, were able to knock, talk, speak, communicate. And then, when he wouldn't let them in, and he kind of looked back, they were gone. They had just disappeared. They almost dematerialized. So that makes me think, okay, well, they can't be flesh and blood. But there was another story of a couple that did let them in. And when they were inside the house, they had, sat on the couch. They went to the bathroom together. It was very odd, they did the way they were acting, and they had the black eyes. So the two elderly people that let him in, the couple was, pretty freaked out. But when they said, okay, we're going to leave now, someone's coming to pick us up, they said a car approached, pulled in the driveway, and they thought like it was going to be parents, a mom and dad that opened up the door, but it wasn't. It was two men that stood in the driveway next to the car in black suits, and they opened the door for these kids, and the kids went out, got in the car. The men got in the car as well and pulled out and drove away. So that, that's interesting, because they physically got in the car. They didn't disappear. They drove off in this car. And it sounded like this was like the Men in Black or something like that, government spooks.
That's where my thoughts first went. And author John Keel of the Mothman Prophecies, he postulated these Men in Black were negative supernatural entities. That they were not, what we think of as government agents. They were not aliens with suits on. They were nothing less than paranormal beings themselves. So I don't know why paranormal beings would be drawn to UFO encounters. But I can suspect why paranormal beings would be drawn to black-eyed kids, and perhaps there is a connection between the two. I mean, we're talking Men in Black, black-eyed kids, shadow people. Is there a connection between the three? I tend to believe all these things have a thread of truth that run through them, that connects one to the other and leads us down a rabbit hole of deeper understanding.
Yeah, I mean, if these things are related, if the UFOs or these aliens are not just aliens, if they're not from another planet, if they themselves are interdimensional or demonic, and they're taking the persona on, or if they're able to shapeshift or change their appearance, we don't really know. They might not even be gray aliens. They may be some kind of biosuit, or they may be something completely different that's able to shift and morph into something else, and they're just taking the persona of aliens right now because we're in a science age and we're getting ready to explore space, and that's the most logical thing we'd accept. So it's hard to say for sure, but if there's some sort of spiritual or interdimensional entity, and so are these Men in Black and the black-eyed kids, I mean, then you definitely have a relationship there. It could be why they're interested in UFO or aliens, because maybe they're not. They might be interdimensional, and then they relate. I mean, black-eyed kids might kind of hybrid. There's theories there's some sort of hybridization going on, and these black-eyed kids could be a result of that. There's only been few cases that I was able to find where the black-eyed kids became adults, or I guess I should say there were adult, black-eyed adults. It's usually kids, and they don't seem to grow up. But there were one or two cases that did have an adult that had the black eyes. So I don't know if they grow up, or if it just was a different manifestation, or if a different entity. Have you ever heard of that? The black-eyed adults?
I've heard it briefly mentioned in some podcast I was listening to, the idea of black-eyed adults. But that was it. It was a very brief mention, and they kind of dismissed it in the show I was listening to. So, I think that's a stretch. Unless we're dealing with something that's not paranormal at all, perhaps we're dealing with something like hybrids. What if these black-eyed kids are hybrid extraterrestrial humans? That might explain the strange appearance of their eyes.
Right. and then I guess they would grow up, or age. Because if they're supernatural, or I agree. I don't think they would age. That wouldn't
No,
make sense.
no.
They're just. I don't even think they look like they do. They're just taking that persona on or somehow manifesting. But if they are, what's with the black eyes though? I mean, if they're supernatural, why not just make their eyes look normal? Like what, why would the black eyes come out unless they can't? It's the darkness of the
It
soul
just
or something. I mean,
might be something they're capable of. They could be the
eyes are the window
jinn.
to the soul, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
But they could
they
be
are
jinn
soulless. Well,
from the
yeah,
Islamic mythology. They
right.
could be tied
Yeah,
into that. And perhaps
yeah.
that's why they have such a strange appearance to us. There's a
Mhm.
plethora of reasons. I think that these creatures might manifest in the reason, the reason they manifest as children, obviously to play to our sympathies. But what their intentions are. There's probably a plethora of reasons for that. We could delve into a whole mystery box of what the black eyed kids want.
Well, yeah. I
Are
mean,
they just looking
it's
for victims to prey on? Are they
right.
like in this case looking to contact someone to come retrieve them?
Hmm. And
You know,
it seems to be what they usually use as an excuse or reason to get in is, oh, we have to call our mother, we have to call someone. Now, obviously, that's also the most sympathetic, or it would invoke the most sympathy from someone, a little kid knocking on your door. Oh, we have to call our mom. We're lost. You think, okay, well, most, especially a mother or a grandmother, are going to be sympathetic to that and maybe have a better chance of letting them in. But maybe they are trying to actually physically call someone to pick them up if
perhaps.
somehow they're lost and they can't communicate in any other way. That's an interesting idea. I hadn't
Yeah, they are.
thought
They're
that.
definitely a strange phenomenon.
Hmm. Yeah, but in the case of the couple that let them in, because as Tina had set up there, you're never supposed to let them in ever, like a vampire. Like you said, that you don't let them in, but they did, and the cases that the cases of where people had let them in, there's always a negative after effect, usually of some sort of health deterioration that went on. And in the case of the couple, that let them in, where they
Uh,
called the men in black to come pick them up, they immediately within the first couple weeks after these kids were there and left, they had 3 cats, all had died. All 3 of them had died. The husband started having a bloody nose and then got sick and ended up in the hospital, and I believe he died too, followed by the wife getting sick, and then she ended up getting real sick. Now I don't remember if she died or not, but it
okay.
was like basically every living creature in that house had either died or gotten very, very ill. So, and then that's not
Maybe
the
some kind of corruption these things carry with them.
yes, yeah,
Maybe
some
that's the
kind of.
price you pay for letting them in.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be something like that, like they were being poisoned or something in a way. I don't know, maybe radiation or something coming off of them if they are physical. Although you'd think that would be physical though, if they were causing some kind of radiation. But
Yeah, I don't
um,
know. I don't know.
demonic activity. Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
could
very
be. It could be
interesting.
some kind of affliction. Some kind of
Hmm.
spiritual affliction.
Yeah, like a demonic spiritual affliction. Yeah, it just causes things to go downhill. Yeah, fast. But yeah, interesting entities, these black-eyed kids. And they seem to be on the rise. More people seem to be seeing them. Um, which is disconcerting because boy, that's one thing I do not want to run into. But at least you do have the some, I guess, somewhat of free will just to not let them in. They seem to not be able to do anything to you unless you do let them in. It's the cases where people say no or close the door on them or don't let them in, they seem to be fine. Nothing bad happens to them. It's only when you let them in.
Yeah, absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely. It does
yeah.
appear to me that the real threat is only once they cross that threshold. Other than that, they're just unsettling, otherworldly. Clearly, there's an indication you should not let these in,
Hmm.
but they do seem to be toothless otherwise.
Yeah. And the vampire thing, the classic vampire story, they they're sucking your blood, and that's what they want is the blood, which is the life, the life force, the essence of your life is in your blood. And the Bible talks about that. And I wonder if there is a connection with the black-eyed kids being let in where they're somehow sucking life force out of you, not physically, into your neck with their fangs, but in a way, by whatever happens, poisoning or some kind of affliction, they're drawing your life force or your essence into them, and in a way a vampire does it.
Psychic vampires.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, psychic vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I know there could be a correlation there too. Shadow Man says, "The blood, which is the bald eagle." I don't know what the bald eagle is. TurboGrafx says, I'm confused. Are we talking about Joe Biden or shadow people? Hey, maybe he is one. I don't know. There's no knowing for sure. No sniffing was mentioned. Yeah, that's right. No sniffing was mentioned.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Tina says, good theory. They psychically suck the life out of you. Yeah, maybe, Tina. It's interesting. I'm not sure. But it does seem like they do follow certain patterns. I don't know if garlic, would stop them. Maybe a crucifix would be interesting. If you had a crucifix or a cross or something on you or in the house, I wonder how that would affect them. I guess you'd find out if they were of the demonic type or not. If they had an adverse reaction to that. There's cases with UFO abductions where someone turns to like a priest or a minister or pastor or something asking for help, and they're told, well, like when this stuff happens or when you feel like you're about to be abducted, because a lot of frequent flyers, they call them, who get abducted all the time, they say they know, there's a sense, like they get a sensation that they know they're about to be kind of turned off, almost like you put in zombie mode and abducted. And there's been people who have gone to these priests and ministers and said, this is what's happening. How do I stop it? And they said, well, before this happens, call out in the name of Jesus for these things to stop. And there's cases that are reported that when that's been done, it's worked, and these abductions have stopped, and whatever that feeling was, it doesn't, they don't get turned off. It doesn't happen. In some cases it stops completely. In some cases they have to, it's a little bit of a process to keep doing that, keep calling on Jesus's name, and these things stop. So, to me that indicates, well, maybe, what are these aliens and why would they be stopped, by calling out in Jesus' name? And I don't know if this happens all the time or if it's a guaranteed thing, but there are stories that I've heard from, people that's worked. I don't know.
Well,
have
I
you ever
think
heard
in some of these
anything like
cases, we are talking about the parallels between alien abduction and demonic activity, which, I mean, if we look at them, there are some stark contrasts, and it is essentially an invader in your life taking control of you for whatever purpose they have. I think that I leave the door open to the possibility that some of these quote unquote extraterrestrial encounters are actually encounters with the demonic under the guise of extraterrestrials. I don't see any reason a demon couldn't pretend to be an ET.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that maybe there's two things going on. There's, ETs, and then there's also the demons that are taking that persona on and pretending to be that.
Very much
That's
so.
interesting. Yeah.
Very much so.
That's an interesting thought. What is that? Tina said, I always believe if they exist that the black-eyed kids are demonic. I mean, it seems like they would be. It's surprising that they would have some physical car come and pick them up and they physically get in the car and drive away. I mean, unless that's all, maybe they drive to the end of the street and they disappear. It could all be a show just to keep people off the trace of what they really are. I don't know. Maybe that car doesn't go anywhere, or maybe it morphs into something else. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's just very bizarre, the whole thing. And it sounds like it's demonic. That's would be my first thought, but it is questionable why they would need to get in a car and that they physically saw them drive away. Toolbat says, who's to say an alien and an angel are not one and the same, good or bad? The Bible never defines exactly what an angel is. We just know there are all kinds of different angels. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the word angel just means messenger, which is one class of angel. Angels are in our culture today. They're usually all kind of lumped in with the same thing. The little cherubs, the little kids, little babies with the curly hair, and they have the wings. And they sit on clouds, and it's like Cupid. That's kind of the common association of what an angel is. But yeah, it's not. They're much more than that. The messenger angel is just one angel. There's warrior, and there's different types. Like you said, they're described as there's a serpentine type. The seraphim are serpentine looking, a shining serpentine like creature. That's what the serpent, in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. It's never described to be a snake. That's just what artists interpreted it as, or the translation, the word, got translated to that. But it really describes a serpentine shining like being. So that, which, if you do look at the angels and how they're described, that's one of the angel classes, that they're serpentine like creatures. So this angel in the Garden of Eden, Lucifer, is the snake or the serpent or Satan, it's most likely describing a being, a physical being, not a snake as we know snakes.
Well, to your point, I think of the Oraphim specifically, and these are the ones that are like wheels within wheels with eyeballs all over them. Biblically accurate angels are a terrifying visage. They are like, I think the story of Francis of Assisi. He received the stigmata, and he was out praying in the wilderness when this happened to him. He saw appear in the sky a crucified seraphim. 6 wings, fiery eyes, crucified. And then he bore the wounds of Christ and had to go back home with them. Francis of Assisi is a strange tale.
Yeah.
Strange tale of a very disruptive man.
Which is the person that the current Pope took the name Francis. That's, I believe, it was because of Francis of Assisi, which is interesting.
I believe you are correct.
That name, yeah. But when he took that name, I always look into like, well, who is the Pope? Why did he take the name he took? And I learned a little bit about him. This was years ago when he first took his name. I thought, what an odd choice to. And then you see kind of the current Pope, some of his stances on things, and it is questionable. But interesting. The seraphim, a crucified seraphim. That's I wonder what that has to do with.
That imagery is just it's got to be astounding to witness something like that. I think I think of these people who had visions. Like Paul of Tarsus, or Constantine, who saw the image of the IHS in the sky, and then had a vision of Christ the following day, who told him to fight with this sign, and you will be victorious. These kind of visions that strike people down, incredible visions. Blow my mind.
It was so incredible. He went from the whole Roman Empire became Christian after that. Because Constantine was so impacted by that vision, he started. It was then mandatory, and they went from killing all the Christians to everyone has to be a Christian.
Exactly.
That vision. Yeah. It definitely would be impactful. In some instances, it is really like a frightening sight. Where you can't really behold an angel because it's too much for us to bear, and then they also are described as being able to take on human features and look human, where it says you could entertain an angel and not even know
unawares.
Unawares. Because you wouldn't know they're able to change their appearance. It says that Lucifer is able to look like a angel of light, transfer himself into an angel of light. So these things are deceptive, which is why I wonder sometimes about the alien thing, think, well, how do we know? Because if it says angels can change their appearance into basically anything, we have to be very careful of what we're accepting, and so eager to want to meet or go find out in the universe, because we don't really know what's out there. and some of the warnings. I don't know. That's like you said with the um, when you're trying to call upon these entities, or like Stephen Greer in the desert, trying to channel this
Right.
stuff. I mean, that's like, yeah, I just the same thing with a Ouija board. Have you ever used a Ouija board?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We did a Ouija board session last Halloween on my channel, my wife and
Oh,
I.
you did. Okay, so what have you ever found
Yeah,
anything with that, or
nothing
are
happened.
you
I didn't
nothing
expect
happened?
anything to happen. No, nothing
Yeah,
happened. I don't think mass-produced Ouija boards can do anything.
yeah, they have to be a certain type, or made of a certain wood or something,
I
or
feel like
certain.
they got to be made with a certain intent rather than run off an assembly line.
Hmm.
I feel like
Yeah,
there has to be a certain amount of intent. I feel like if I made one on the back of a placemat with a pen, it would be more, it'd be more efficacy to that than there would for this mass-produced Milton Bradley toy. It's just I just don't buy it. I don't buy it.
right. Yeah. No, I think that is something to be said there, because there is, I think the main these relics, or certain items in history, there's power behind them because of the intent, what they were used for. There's some kind of spiritual element that's attached to them. And yeah, I think that's where the power is. It's not in the object itself. It's in whatever is either attached to it, or the intent, or whatever was put onto it uh, when it was created. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. I think that's probably true. And the common Ouija board, it's just made an assembly line. Yeah, maybe it doesn't really have that
Yeah,
intent behind it. So, does it kind of work?
it's just a
Yeah,
strip of balsa wood with laminate on it. That's all it is.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't really I don't really buy it personally.
Enzo says a cardboard and plastic toy can't contact the afterlife. I want my money back.
I mean, that's how they sold the thing, starting when they first invented it. Like there were people that wanted to talk to their dead Civil War relatives, so they were selling Ouija boards. It's just the time period.
Hoping that was going to connect to the great unknown.
Well, that's why the seances got so popular. That's why Mary Todd Lincoln was having seances at the White House.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Seances were popular. Then the Ouija board became popular during the spiritualism revival in the 1920s. There was a time between the 1880s and the 1920s where all this spiritualism and occultism and stuff was flourishing and changing and adapting and coming to the West. And lodges were formed and covens were formed. Well, I wouldn't say covens were formed because that didn't really happen until the 50s in England. Wicca's not that old.
In America?
At all. Wicca only comes around with Gerald Gardner in the 1950s. Wicca is not that old.
It's just based on more ancient.
That's what they say, but nobody can
Yeah.
prove what it's really based on because they don't know anything about the ancients. Like they have no idea what actual religious practices Druids engaged in.
Yeah, well, that's
Because
true.
these
Yeah, I mean, no
people
one
didn't
was
write
around.
anything down. And
Yeah,
had
there
they
was
written
no.
anything down, he probably would have been burned by Christian bishops in the Middle Ages anyway.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
none of it survives. So they reconstruct what they think the
Yeah, I guess
rituals
that's
might
I
be
guess
like.
that's a good point, that we don't really know. Yeah.
No, I've got no idea.
Yeah, we just see the remnants of these strange megalithic structures that they used, and these sites that are obviously were used for something, but we don't really know what was there, or even how they built them. There's so many questions about how they were able to move this stuff, or if it, I don't think it was humans that made these structures originally anyway. I think they were found much later on by humans, and they kind of just used them or repurposed them. But I don't believe that they were created by humans. I think it was an older civilization, possibly, either pre-flood or pre-Adamic, that created this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and then they were wiped out, or somehow disappeared off the face of the earth, or went down into the earth, if you want, believe in the hollow earth or cavern
I'm a
theory.
sucker for the Hollow Earth. I'm a sucker for the
Yeah,
Hollow Earth. I love
I
it. You
know.
know it. I love it. Can't get enough of
Yeah,
it. The Earth is hollow and
yeah,
inhabited within, just like John Cleve Sims Jr. said back in the
yeah, yeah.
1800s.
I think it's very, very possible that that's the case. We don't know. if talk about stuff we don't know that we just well, that's what we're talking about backstage about science, and how they're so certain on their theories, because a lot of it is just theory. And we're supposed to take this stuff to the bank and run with it. We don't know. We've not driven, I think it's 14 miles deep into the earth is as far as the humanity has ever gotten. And that's,
Yeah.
when you consider the earth and how deep it is, that's not very far. So we don't really know what's beneath that. The mantle, the crust, the lava, we don't know. We're just guessing that that's the case
It's
based
all
on
guess.
Yeah, but I don't even know what it's based on. It's just we have no idea.
Well, it's all based on plate tectonics. It's the
Yeah,
whole thing is based on plate tectonics.
Right. But
The
even that's
entire
like
idea.
yeah. Yeah, we can't prove any of it. We don't know what's beneath the earth, but there's plenty of stories throughout time that talk about creatures coming up from, certain areas in the earth that connect to these cavern systems that go deep, deep, deep down. And, I mean, we again, we don't know if this is true or not, but there's plenty of them from all over the world, ancient lore, legends. This stuff has to come from. So I'm at the opinion that these ancient lores and fantasies and, all these stories, they have to come from some kind of truth. There's some kind of truth that sparked this stuff. Because you see this again and again and again in different cultures all over the world, and these cultures were not connected directly, at least for from the history we're told, they're not connected directly, but they have the same story. Like the flood story. There's flood stories from all over the world, from different native cultures, tribes. They all have some version of a flood story, but these
I believe it's upwards of 200 flood myths around the world.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah,
Like
I think that's true. Yeah. I mean, where they didn't all just come up with this stuff randomly. And they weren't in collusion because they weren't connected. So something happened to have all these stories, and I think that's the case with a lot of these myths and legends. There was some truth to this because there's just too many stories from too many cultures that were not connected to have very similar tales of entities, flying serpents. There's all the dragons. It's too many.
Far too many. Far too many. I think there's too much influence in our mythology from things that actually happened. And to say mythology, people automatically dismiss it meaning fake or anything like that. I don't. I think mythology is a way a story is told, but that doesn't necessarily mean that story is fake.
Mm-hmm.
It's a manner of storytelling. So we have the mythology of the flood, but that mythology is ancient, and the mythology predates Noah by the Sumerian text of Gilgamesh.
Mm-hmm.
And the story of Utnapishtim, who survived the flood. And he was granted immortality, him and his wife, because the gods didn't know what to do with them. So they made them immortal.
Yeah. Yeah, and different cultures take the story and they twist it a little bit. They turn it, or they put it in their language, which might change the meaning or something a little. Here and there, words have slightly different meanings when you translate them. So that's why I think you have different versions of them. But I mean, it's basically you have the same. The nuts and bolts are the same tale over and over and over again throughout history, through different cultures, and it's that's just there's no such thing as a coincidence that big.
No.
No. Like a flood, a world flood, and there's all these, over 200 different stories and cultures throughout time that have this. Something happened. Plus, then you have the evidence of finding, remnants of sea life on the mountaintops in Peru. I mean, that's how did that get there? It should not have happened unless the world was covered in water at one point. It's the only way you'd get that.
That's a great point.
Wind and rain is happens. Yeah, that's the only way it happens.
It's not raining frogs on top of the mountaintops.
Right. Right.
It's just not happening.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, but civilizations tend to grow up around food sources, and water is always needs those for food. So we built on the coast and by rivers, things that flood. Yeah, but we're talking about like major, like worldwide floods. They're not, a lot of these cultures aren't talking about a little flood in their area and they had to move. I mean, it was like there was nowhere to go. There was a big flood. But yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like you have to build around water. You need water as a source. So, civilizations would have that. But when you have so many all talking about a massive flood, yeah, it's just too many to chalk up to coincidence. And then you have the evidence, like I said, about sea life on top of mountaintops that shouldn't be there. You put these things together and okay, well, obviously there's some truth here. There's different versions of it, but yeah, like you said, just because it's a story that's told in a narrative doesn't mean that the essence of it isn't based on some kind of fact.
Right.
Yeah. Now we have a mortal woman who can't fail and no person can relate to for our myths. Now we have a mortal woman. Who's a mortal woman?
I think he's talking about as far as archetypes go. In
Mm.
current entertainment, you have the idea of the flawless female
Oh,
character
yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
who is incapable of failing or incapable of being mentored or incapable of growing or changing. They must start out perfect and end
Yeah.
perfect. There's no hero's journey with characters anymore.
Yeah. The Mary Sue character. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. That's me. I mean, we're all no one's perfect, male or female. Yeah. Yeah, there's always an agenda. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's the civilization putting different twists on things. So we have our twist on our current civilization, our current politics and social systems are putting the twist that the immortal woman, like you said, the uh, unfailing woman who has no troubles, everything goes right and easy for her. It's the Rey, the Rey of Star Wars, the Rey syndrome. Yeah. For me, always seemed to lead back to Randall Carlson theory of catastrophic flooding 12,000 plus years ago. 12,000 plus years ago. I mean, that, it's funny that is a time period that many theologians and scientists that are open to the flood have come up with this kind of 10,000 or 12,000 year range or time period that this happened. And that does fit. I mean, the biblical timeline, it's changed depending. Not everyone has the same timeline, but more of the classic timeline is about 12,000 years ago for the flood, So yeah, there are a lot of correlations from different studies and different people that have different backgrounds. It's not all theologians, they do come with about a 10 to 12,000 year range for a flood, which is, yeah, I mean, that's not really that long ago when you really think about it. If we accept academia's Earth, the age of the Earth, which I don't know. I'm not so sure. I don't know what happened. I think there was a pre-Adamic world. What do you think about that? A pre-Adamic world before Adam and Eve, the classic Adam and Eve human.
Well,
there was something else here.
There were. Now, at least as far as the antediluvian world goes, you had something roughly like around 1665 years of the antediluvian world, of the time between the fall and the flood. Was there something here beforehand? Yes. I think there's biblical evidence to support there were two creations.
Yeah, I do too.
And the one creation was the pre-Adamites. Second creation was Adam and Eve. Cain was very terrified somebody was going to kill him. Who was going to kill him if there was nobody else on the planet?
Right.
So there were other people around. But they now, where are they now? They're gone. The pre-Adamites are all gone. Killed in the flood. At the end of the antediluvian world. Who even knows what they look like?
Yeah.
Were they human in the way we are? Were they something else?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was something
I don't think they're human in the way we are. No, I think they were something else.
There'd be no point in having a clear distinction between Adam and Eve being the first of mankind if the pre-Adamics were, also just like us. That doesn't make sense to have a distinction that we were made in the image of God, as the Bible says. So that means whatever came before was not. It had to have a different look.
Now, who knows if they had elongated skulls or something like that? Possibility exists there.
Right.
They could have been all manner of different. They could have been 11 feet tall with elongated skulls.
Well, that's the classic Nephilim. That's the version of the Bible that talks about the Nephilim, well, the version, it's Genesis 6, chapter 6, talking about the giants of old, the men of renown that were anywhere from 11, 12 to possibly 20 feet tall. There's all different kind of stories, but yeah, I mean, the giants of old, that's where we find these stories of these historical giants, and again, that transfers throughout cultures. There's tons of Native American oral traditions that talk about these giants, that were
Oh
hunting
yeah,
Indians, and
the
that.
Setecha of the Paiute Indian tradition.
Mhm.
They were the red-haired giants
Right.
that were, led to their demise in a cave
Mhm.
because they had plagued the Paiute people by cannibalizing them, by raiding their villages. So they trapped them in a cave and they lit a fire at its mouth and they let the fire smoke do its job. And
And
that took care of the giant problem. There's also
and
the
it's
Moon-eyed people of South Carolina, I believe. The
hmm.
Moon-eyed people. No one's. I'm not sure if I got that right. Is it West Virginia or South Carolina? I'm not sure. Somebody can look into that. The Moon-eyed people. They were also said to be different than the natives. They had large eyes, gray skin, very different than the inhabitants of the frontiers at the time.
Uh-huh. Interesting. That's okay. So I just pulled this up here. Moon-eyed people. Yeah. Well, I mean, moon-eyed. It's kind of in their name, right? Their eyes
Yeah.
were obviously not the same as humans. Yeah. So here we go. This is the moon-eyed people from Wikipedia. Because I haven't heard about the I haven't heard about this group. Legendary group. People said to have lived in the Appalachia until the Cherokee expelled them. Stories of them attributed to the tradition are mentioned early European settlers in America. They were called the moon-eyed because they saw poorly during the day. Oh, very interesting. Yeah. Later stories about people add additional details saying they had white skin. They were created. They created the pre-Columbian ruins. See this? Yeah, this is interesting because I wonder if this ties into the Serpent Mounds and the Ohio Mounds.
Very well could be.
There's yeah, I mean these are there's hundreds of mounds all over Ohio and maybe in the East Coast that are, I mean, you're talking like millions of tons of dirt that would have been impossible for Native Americans as we know them to have, with the technology we know they had, to have done this themselves. It's just it's physically impossible. They didn't physically have the manpower to do it. And we know by history they didn't get along. These tribes, were always warring with each other, so they weren't working together in any capacity. So it would have been impossible for them to make these mounds. So someone had to do it. So yeah, it's interesting that the moon-eyed people. Have you ever heard the theory that that the well, I guess it would be the Phoenicians or the Canaanites, who I believe are the same people, that they had left. So when Joshua goes into the promised land, and God says, take everyone out, get them all out of there. Cause this is your land. You're supposed to claim it. And they go in and, they say there's giants there. We're like grasshoppers, in their sight, which makes me think these were big, big guys. Whoever was there was very big. To describe yourself in their sight, but went in there anyway and feed them, and that there's a theory that they had left the Levant, traveled across the sea, ended up in the Caribbean, and slowly worked their way from the Caribbean up into Florida and then all the way up to the East Coast and landed in like the New Hampshire, Massachusetts region. And that they possibly were in charge, they were the creators of all these mounds, because the serpent site, the Great Serpent Mount, and the Circle Mount, which are two different sites, they're all lined up to the astrological, different constellations. It's all lined up perfectly, so the trigonometry, impossible. We didn't have it back then. So somehow they created all these sites. And the interesting thing is, in New Hampshire, there's an area called the America's Stonehenge. And they just
I'm
named
familiar with that. Yeah, it's a small standing stone structure.
Yep.
Very uncommon for the people of the time to have made.
Yeah, they all line up to every standing stone lines up to either a solstice or it lines up to the constellations. There's a standing stone that lines up to the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the fall solstice, the equinoxes. They're all lined up perfectly. And they found a stone there that had an inscription on it. And when they deciphered it, it was an ancient Canaanite like language that said this stone like represents. It basically said this site or this area is dedicated to Baal, Baal,
Hmm.
of the Canaanites. Baal was like the god of the Canaanites, like one of the lead head gods of the Canaanites. And that was found in New Hampshire. And this would have, and they dated it about 5,000 years ago, but they said it was probably much older. They're not quite sure how old it goes, but they know it predates any Colombian. The Columbus, they hadn't been over there yet. So to find this there, that means that there had to be someone from the Levant would have had to have come across the sea and landed here
Well,
thousands of years ago.
to speak to that, you're absolutely right. They found Phoenician writing on a stone in Brazil, which tells the
Mhm.
tale of a Phoenician ship that was
Mhm.
separated from a fleet sailing around from Egypt around Africa.
Wow.
There's also the Bat Creek inscription, which is in Hebrew, and it's
No,
supposed to
very
indicate
interesting.
that there were Israelites who had arrived in the Americas before Columbus.
Hmm.
There's the Los Lunas del Decalogue stone, another piece of evidence that speaks to Semitic discovery of the Americas in the ancient past. So the possibility of the Phoenicians getting separated from their fleet and landing here by accident, I don't think is crazy.
Yeah, no.
I also don't think it's
I
crazy the idea that there was transcontinental trade.
Mhm.
There's a reason they
Yep.
found certain plants from the Americas in mummies in Egypt,
Mhm.
and there's no other explanation for how they could have gotten there.
Yeah, yeah. That's also one of the theories of the Phoenicians coming over here that they started the transcontinental trade as well. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. How would that have happened otherwise? It's not natural to that area, so it had to have been brought in over there.
It had to be.
Now, why do you think what's your idea of why and we're not talking about the shadow people at all, but I mean it kind of ties in a little bit, but what's your idea of how or why academia would not accept this, try to hide it, just sweep any evidence under the rug. What's the point of that? What do they have to gain?
I think what you have to do is look back at the turn of the century and see what wealthy individuals decide to get involved in academia. Look at
Mhm.
names like the Rockefeller Foundation. Look at names like the Carnegie Institute. Look at these big names and see why they got involved in education and how things changed because of their involvement. How did things in the medical industry change because of the involvement of Rockefeller?
Mhm.
Big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
So, if you look to education, there's been people who've been shaping education for 100 years to try to create the mess that we're in now. But there's been people who've been machinating events behind the scenes for 100 years to create the world we live in now. I purposely believe that
Yeah,
the entire 1960s were socially engineered. I firmly believe that.
I think so
Uh,
too.
I think the Beatles were part of that. I think they were,
Mhm.
hey, come on,
So
guys, you're
too.
going to be the biggest stars in the world. We're going to make you the biggest stars in the world, and you're going to be part of this cultural revolution because it's exactly what it was. And I think it was detrimental to
Mhm.
society in a lot of ways. I think the 60s were a mistake. I think there was a time period where people romanticized this era, but I think it is disgusting and depraved. And it really, that's when the world fell apart. And I think the seeds of what were planted during those eras have grown into the bitter fruit that has been born today in this world we live in now.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly how I feel when I was young and I was learning about the 60s. I thought, "Oh my gosh, this was the time, the best time in America, the most influential, everything was exciting and the music was the best and all the politics and people were, fighting for their rights and the freedom and America was." And then the more I learned about it, and I learned about the secret societies and such, families, as you mentioned, you start realizing it's nothing that I thought I knew. This was all completely a an agenda, something that was constructed to fulfill a destiny. I think an ancient destiny that these people have, and
Yeah.
taking out certain people, Kennedy's assassination. And then right after that, you have the Beatles come in, I mean, within like months after Kennedy, the Beatles hit play Ed Sullivan, and it explodes. And then you've got the whole movement of the 60s, the counterculture, everything that was going on in schools. And as you start realizing this stuff was not for really the betterment of America. The real
No.
America, classic America, was the 40s, 50s, and it died kind of in the 60s. The classic America died, and it became something else. It became an agenda and pushing these ideas that we see now starting to come to fruition. But this is like decades in the making.
It is. It is. It's a long game because people think in centuries. They don't think in decades.
Mm-hmm.
They think in centuries. So it doesn't matter. It does
Yeah.
not matter to them. They have all the time in the world to engineer this world that they've wanted to create for a very long time now. And, it's like it's happening so fast and so slow at the same time. It's almost
Yeah.
at the perfect pace where people don't notice.
Right. It's I keep using this analogy over and over again these days because it's so perfect. But it's the frog in the boiling water. You put a frog in the boiling water, it's going to jump right out. But you put it in the room temperature water and you slowly turn it up, and it'll cook itself to death because it doesn't realize it.
Hmm.
You just keep them coming along, pushing them along, making it seem like it makes sense, making it, and all of a sudden you're you're where we're almost at.
I mean, what do
And
you
you
do when
wonder
a
how do we
slippery
get here?
slope becomes a steep cliff? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah. You try to grab on, but there's it's nothing to grab on to. Gravity takes hold. Yeah, it's crazy that just where we've gone in a few years, but it's kind of accelerated, but it's been decades old. Now, what do you think about the okay, so the Bible prophecies, of like Revelation, the end
Right.
times. What do you Because a lot of that stuff that's described in Daniel and Revelation and some of the epistles that Paul wrote, it describes a time period much like what we're seeing now,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the world we live in. I mean, it's talking about, the mark of the beast. You can't buy, sell, trade without it. You're pretty much stopped from doing anything. And, I'm not saying that the we call it the wine, drinking the wine here, as a term for what, because we can't say it on YouTube, but
Of course. Of
um
course. I know exactly what
yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah, but it's I'm not saying that's it, but
Spill
it
my
definitely seems
wine.
like, right. Yeah, it seems like we're building up towards that period that the Bible talks about. What do you think? Do
I
you see
don't
a
disagree with
correlation
you
there?
there. I don't disagree with you one bit. I think that there is a lot of reason to say, hey, the ideas put forth in this book about the future seem to be really parallel to what's going on in the world today. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of people who would deny that and the idea that it's happening, but there's a lot of people who think the economy's good right now
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because you got
yeah.
a lot of people who live in a world of delusion. They live in a world of
Hmm.
delusion because it's I don't know. I guess it's easier for them to do so. I try to stay away, at least on my show, getting too political or too topical or too current events. So I'm cutting loose a little bit here. We're being a little more freeform, I guess. But
Oh yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's a shame. It's a shame. We're talking about a long con game of social engineering that was pulled upon, perpetrated over the entire world over the course of many decades to get us to this debaucherous, decadent society that we live in today. I get online and all I see are TikTok influencers and Instagrammers and vapid, empty, hollow content creators,
Mm.
and there's plenty of them out there who are very successful and very influential. And what they do is vapid. It's not contributing anything to anybody.
No,
I
yeah.
feel like at least in this sphere that we're involved in here, we both have an effort to entertain, but at the same time educate people.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not doing this just doing stupid stuff online just to get views. Like I'm hoping that people will actually listen, learn something. Maybe wake up a little bit to what's going on
Yeah,
around us that they're not telling you, on the news and anywhere else and in academia. Yeah, I mean, I think we both have, the education as the forefront of why we're doing this.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like RR says, civilization has become decadent and immoral. That's why it's collapsing. Well, and to your point too, Pete, about this whole social media thing and TikTokers, and the Bible says in the end times, people will become boastful, lovers of themselves rather than lovers
Hmm.
of God. Without having really becoming cold. Without having true love for people. And I mean, I can't. It just doesn't fit any more perfectly than that. You look around us; it's exactly what's going on. It's all about celebrity and worshiping the idols. These celebrities were idols, and I mean, it's yeah, and it's socially been engineered that way. We've been like, I mean, media and how they push these celebrities to be worshipped. They're always in front of your face. They're always getting the glitz and the glam. They're making you want that life. They're making, it's seductive.
You
And
know,
yeah,
there's this prophecy in Catholicism of the Great Chastisement
mm-hmm.
that uh, there will need to be a conversion of the heart. So there will be two messages that will come. One will come directly from the Virgin Mary, and one from Saint Michael the Archangel.
Mm.
And the first revelation came in 1961. It said we must make many sacrifices, perform must penance, and visit the Blessed Sacrament frequently. But first, we must live good lives, because if we do not, chastisement will befall us. The cup is already filling up, and if we do not change, a very great chastisement will come upon us. And then in 1965, the second message, the principal visionary reported receiving the second message. As my message of 18 October has not been compiled with and has not been made known to the world, I'm telling you that this is the last one previously. The cup was filling, now it is brimming over. Many cardinals, bishops, and priests are following the road to perdition, and with them they are taking many more souls. Even less importance is being given to the Holy Eucharist. We should turn the wrath of God away from us by our own efforts. If you ask for his forgiveness with a sincere heart, he will pardon you. I, your mother, through the intercession of St. Michael the Archangel, wish to tell you that you should make amends. You have now been given the last warning. I do not want your condemnation. I love you very much. I ask us sincerely, and we shall grant your plea. Reflect on the passion of Jesus. Besides these two messages, the visionaries forecast a warning, a miracle, and a punishment. The warning was described as a momentary stopping of time around the world when all people would see the spiritual condition of their soul, and they should know how to amend their ways. Within a year of this warning, a miracle will take place. This miracle will leave a permanent sign in Garabandal, Spain, where we can seen and photographed but not touched. The miracle will occur between March and May. The punishment, or the chastisement, is conditional upon how humankind reacts to the preceding warning and the miracle.
When was this written?
1961, 1965.
1961, 1960. Okay, so, and did it give a time period of when this
It has not.
be in the lifetime of
No time period.
Interesting. Wow. But I mean, I can see that lining up, pretty well with prophecy and, where we're headed and what the Bible lays out as like the end time scenario. I mean, but in the Bible, it's unavoidable. It's going to happen. It doesn't give a
Right. It's
time period
absolutely gotta happen.
exactly, but it's going to happen. Yeah. One way or another, it's going to, it has to play out that way. And you wonder if these warnings and everything are in a way, I mean, it's not a fruitless effort, but in a way it's trying to just wake people up and saying like, hey, look, when this stuff happens, you did it to yourselves. We warned you, it's there, but it's also unavoidable because of your choices. Like, you have led it this way. Ultimately God's timeline is it's going to happen, but it's, you know, it's humanity that will cause it to happen. Or I mean, I guess it's all about our free will, you know, because we do have the free will to choose where we go, or how we go, you know, and it's the will of humanity to lead us to the end times. I don't know. Is there turning back? You know, can we delay? I guess we can if we all, you know, if we collectively all called
I
out
think
and
you can
changed our
delay.
ways.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
you can delay these kind of things. But they are inevitable. They're absolutely inevitable.
Mhm.
So there's something called the 3 days of darkness too. I've done videos on. And
Mhm.
this is another Catholic prophecy where the world will be plunged into 3 days of complete darkness, where electricity won't work, where, you know, your batteries and your flashlights won't work. Nothing will, except for blessed beeswax candles. Those will be the only things you'll be able to light.
Blessed beeswax candles.
Blessed beeswax candles, and they got to be
Hmm.
blessed in the old rite, not the new one.
Hmm.
And you're locked in the house for 3 days while demons roam the earth. They'll knock on your doors and imitate the voices of your loved ones to try to entice you
Oh.
outside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll do everything they can to try to get you to open up or look out the windows, but you're not supposed to do either of those for those 3 days.
Wow, that sounds like the Black Eyed Kids in a way.
A little bit.
Knocking on your door, trying to get you to let them in. What if it's a trial run? Huh. Interesting. So 3 days. These. Yeah. You know, that's. There's been, I know, visions, you know, and this isn't like, this isn't a thus saith the Lord kind of thing, but people have had these visions that something very similar to that, where, you know, it's almost like a fake rapture, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where their family members, it's not going to be their family members though, but they will rise from the, you know, the grave, and it's going to seem like it's a rapture, and they're going to come and try to get you, you know, hey, we're, you know, Jesus is coming back, we got to go, Jesus is coming back, come with me. But it's not them, you know, it's not Jesus coming back. I mean, in fact, it even says in the Bible there will be there'll be people come in my name, you know, but don't believe him. They're going to say, hey, he's out here, he's in the desert, he's coming here, but don't believe him. You know, when I come back, you'll know it's me. So there's warnings in the Bible about that kind of thing. You know, not trusting when people are saying, hey, you know, he's coming, we got to go, even if it's a family member. Because it does
Yeah.
say also, you know, in the Bible that the dead will rise first. Paul talks about this, you know, which people do attribute to a rapture event where the dead will rise first, and then us that are alive will rise with them after them, you know, and meet the Lord in the air, and that's what we should all ever be with the Lord. So, you know, if you think of how Satan kind of seems to counterfeit everything, you know, he sort of counterfeits everything God does. It's like a chess match back and forth. You know, Jesus did something, Satan tries to counterfeit it. You know, God does something, Satan tries to counterfeit it. Well, if there is
Mm-hmm.
some sort of rapture event, well, the only logical, you know, thought would be that Satan would try to do some kind of twist on it, you know, where he's imitating it in a way. And maybe that ties into this 3 days. You know, that's interesting you said that.
Yeah, the 3 days of darkness. It's a real one, a really strange one. Personally, like when it comes down to the rapture, I'm not really a rapture believer. Like I feel like that's a new doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see them try to pull a fake rapture off on people who do believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe using UFO technology to beam
Yeah.
people away.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I don't see that happening
It's possible.
in any kind of supernatural way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it is not found in historic Christianity. It is a recent doctrine of evangelical Protestantism. So you can't go back to the church fathers. You can't go back to Augustine of Hippo and ask him about the rapture because he's not going to know what the hell you're talking about. You know,
Yeah.
you can't
People
go
took
back
the
to.
word, they usually attribute the Greek word harpazo, which is in the New Testament, and you know that gets translated to the modern day because it got translated to like the Latin, which was like rapore, and then you know we take it's just called catching. If you look up the Bible, it's you know it says the catching away, and then people take that and say, well, that's the rapture, and that's what it means, and Paul's talking about that. But you know, I mean, it's the most highly debated. It's one of the most highly debated topics in like modern day Christianity, and I you
Oh,
know I
absolutely.
go back and forth with this all the time. I'd hope it's true. I'd like it to be true, but if it's not, I'm also prepared for what's coming. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what. I'm always debating that in my mind. But yeah. So it's interesting, the alien thing though too, because there's a lot of kind of the new age philosophies and what people are allegedly being told from these entities, these the abductees, that there will be some kind of you know taking away of people on Earth that are not yet aligned or ready to transcend into the new world when they come down and like actually show up on a world scale.
Oh,
That
these fifth
before that.
dimensional spiritual beings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So, I wonder, because that also does sound like an alien version of the Christian rapture, and I wonder what that's about. How come that's very interesting that there's channeling that's also talking about some type of event where people that aren't yet ready for the new, to evolve into the next phase of humanity, whatever that means, are taken away off the planet to be educated or to get ready or whatever goes on in that theory. But that there is a ufology version of the rapture too.
Oh yeah. Have you taken into account Project Blue Book? Not
Mm-hmm.
Blue Book, Blue Beam.
Blue beam,
Blue
yeah.
Beam. Yeah. Blue Beam, fire sign. The idea of a fake rapture, the idea of a fake return of Christ projected by holograms and probably done by drones. I just watched the Spider-Man flick called Far From Home,
Oh
where the
yes.
villain was using drones
Mm-hmm.
to pretend to be attacks on
Uh-huh.
cities when they were all just holographic projections to begin with.
Yeah.
Uh,
Isn't
so,
that
uh,
interesting?
I think the idea of like a worldwide threat, you don't need to do it everywhere. You just need to do it in one place. You need one UFO to show up over the skies of New York City. You need to crash one UFO into a major city or something like that, and that's all it takes. You could project a
Mm-hmm.
fleet of them, and then put one into the ground. People are going to know it's real. They're going to believe it.
Yeah. We're already set.
It's
We're
not going
already
to take
conditioned to
much.
believe. No, yeah. The world's already conditioned to believe in UFOs showing up. They're ready. There's more people who believe now than ever before. It wouldn't take much. And there's a story that I think was this. I think this is in Stephen Greer's documentary. He released a documentary. Did you watch that? It was like a few months ago. He released it.
No, I've yet to see it. I'm really behind on all my documentaries. I've got a stack of books and movies I've got to watch, but I'm just so far behind.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting thing in there. He's interviewing this guy, this next government guy, and I believe it's in this movie. He's talking about Project Bluebeam basically, and saying that they had this technology in like the 70s where they were able to holographically project images already back in the 70s. And they had a plan. They were going to do something where they were going to fake a second coming of Christ, and they were going to use Brazil. I think it was San Pablo, or I think it was in Brazil, that they were going to project it there because they believed that had the highest amount of Christians that would believe that event. They would believe that without question. And so they were going to project from ships off of the coast in the ocean. They were going to shoot these beams up and project a false, coming of Christ just to see, like as a test. And I don't know, they didn't go through with it because they probably thought, well, what do we do? How do we follow this up? I don't know where they were going to go with that. But that was originally a plan they had and technology that existed in the 70s. And I can't even imagine
Yeah.
a few decades later now what that's like. And like you said, the Spider-Man movie, I think entertainment's always showing us stuff that's going on, or showing us either stuff that's about to happen or conditioning us to things that are really there. It's almost like they like secret messaging, the public, and either conditioning them or just saying like, haha, look, we have this stuff and you guys have no idea. It's either like a taunt about how stupid we are, or it's slowly just conditioning us, telling us the truth little by little. But they do it in entertainment, so it's fantasy. We don't really believe it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's all just dripped out, drips and drabs entertainment. I was saying this to somebody the other day. Like the fact of the matter is that aliens have been with us for as long as television's been with us. The
Mm-hmm.
idea of worlds that are inhabited by other beings or creatures that come from those worlds are replete throughout our entertainment. It's even in our kids' entertainment. You know, I mean, kids' movies I watch over here with the kids that are full of aliens from another world. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
every other movie.
Yeah. 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 It's conditioning them at a young age, getting them used to that idea. Yeah. I mean, oh yeah, like Tina said, predictive programming. Yeah, that's the term. Yeah. Exactly. Predictive programming. Yeah, you start wondering like everything I watch, the zombie movies, are they really just, are they really made up zombies, or is there, is this something that's some kind of virus that's going to come out and actually make people zombies, or, some kind of bacteria or parasite that's going to do this. I was reading an article recently that was talking about this parasite that can get into your eyeball and basically takes a hold of your brain and turns you into like a zombie. It can control like your whole body. I mean, it's who knows? I hope not, but you start wondering about some of this stuff. Calamity Psy Shipyard said, I had a direct experience with shadow beings when I was a kid. So let's segue into shadow beings, because in many ways, I mean, this is all the same stuff. Are they aliens? Are they interdimensional? It's like the Black Eyed Kids, So what about shadow people? Now, these things are not physical manifestations, although people see them in some form, but they're not as physical as the Black Eyed Kids. So what's your take on what these shadow figures are? Who are they? Where do they come from? Is this the
Well,
same,
I got
same
a
thing
couple
as the Black
theories
Eyed
on that.
Kids?
You can take into account the idea that perhaps we're seeing something from the other side of reality. We might be perceived as shadow people to them too.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's say maybe they're the Fey folk. Maybe they're the Fey folk that exist outside of our reality somewhere, and occasionally we catch a glimpse of them because we share the same space. So I think that's one aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that the possibility exists that they are demonic in nature, and they generally are attracted to negative energies. Or perhaps there's
Negatives
something that's
attract the
around.
negative energies.
I think they're attracted to negative energies,
Okay.
or they feed off of negative energy.
Yeah.
They might use this negative energy as a source of energy,
Right. Yeah.
some kind of
Yeah.
sustenance
Food.
for them. Yeah, like who
Mm-hmm.
knows? Who knows how these kind of creatures exist?
Yeah.
But they could be interdimensional. That's another aspect of them as well. They could be interdimensional. They could be from somewhere beyond our world. Maybe there's something we're all able to perceive,
That we're all
given
able
the
to
right
perceive.
conditions.
Yeah. In many cases, it seems like people see them, briefly out of the corner of their eye. They're not really sure. They kind of appear and disappear. And then in other cases, they seem to be much more, flushed out and like standing over the bed, watching you, or
Yeah,
assumingly
weird stuff
watching you.
like
I mean,
that.
they don't really have features, right? But it's the figure. You can see like a human figure um, that looks to be or to appear to be
And they're
looking out
often
of your
associated
eyes.
with
You can
sleep
see,
paralysis as
but it
well.
doesn't right. Yeah, which is also an alien abduction. That's a similar symptom of alien abductions, the sleep paralysis.
So again, it's all tied together. Everything's
Yeah.
all tied together. I really believe that.
Mhm.
I believe all these strange paranormal phenomenons, all religions, all these weird ideas, the high strangeness, everything, it's all tied together.
Yeah, it
I don't
definitely
know
appears to
exactly how
be.
it's connected. If I could figure out how it's all connected, I would sit down, I'd write a book called The Grand Unified Theory, and I would tell everybody how it works. But I can't figure out yet how it's all connected. I need to get my wall all set up with newspaper clippings and string. My wife won't let me have one of those walls.
Yeah.
That's a
Get
bridge
your
too far.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, but I definitely agree. It's all connected. You know, even when you talk about Bigfoot, there's stories where Bigfoot are seen coming out of UFOs or standing next to the gray aliens. You know, it's like, well, why are they hanging out with each other? You know,
Other
what does
stories
that have
where the
to do with
government
each
was
other?
rescuing Bigfoot in forest fires and covering up its knowledge
Right.
of their existence.
Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yeah. It's just, you know, what how is all this stuff going on? So if the shadow people can pop in and out, are we, like you said, are we able, you know, are we shadow people to them? Are we able to be seen in their dimension? I mean, it seems like we are, but how are we perceived to them? You know, because if they're coming and interacting with us, they can obviously see us. But is it them popping into our dimension and seeing us, or are we also somehow our energy, or you know, are we shadows to their dimension too?
Could be the same. Could be the case as both are a possibility.
It just seems like they mess with us more than we mess with any of them, you know, unless someone's trying to channel something like that. But you know, they in many cases they seem to be very frightening or invoke fear. You know, you never hear about any of these cryptids, or I mean, other than a few alien stories where they have, you know, maybe a good encounter with some humanoid type looking being. But you know, the grays, the typical alien stories, abductions, you never hear good, you know, oh, it was so nice, it was so friendly, and they're so, these shadow people, oh, we just, you know, we had fun talking. It's always like that, scared the crap out of me, I had sleep paralysis, they were reaching, you know, reaching out at me, they wanted to grab me, I couldn't, you know, it's always fear. They always invoke fear. They never seem to be doing anything good. And they always come at night. It's always like nightmares and stuff like this. You know, why? I mean, if it's demonic, then that explains it. But if it's not, why is it always like a bad scenario or bad result?
Bad juju, man. I don't know. That's just it's just whatever they're into is not good. So I think they're negative entities. Whatever they are, I
Mm-hmm.
just discount them as negative entities. I'm glad that I don't see them. I'm glad they don't pester me. You know, I personally have no desire to see a shadow person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be frozen in sleep paralysis with them standing over me, looking at me and stuff. I don't need any of that business in my life. We don't need none of
No.
that.
Well,
No, no,
nope.
sorry.
Nope. Not welcome here. Yeah. Yeah. So two of the more famous, Raymond says, Pete. Hello, Pete.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello, Raymond.
Hello, Raymond. How do you do?
uh, okay, so Calamity's going on with his story here. Let's see. So he said, well, let me see here, Calamity, because I know you were talking about. He said the specialist informed us that these creatures are like interdimensional scavengers, preying and feasting on fear and negative emotions. Yeah, well, see, there you go. That's kind of what you were saying too. Um, yeah, that they're almost feeding like it's food or sustenance to them, this negative energy and negative emotions. So he said that you experienced hands coming out of the wall to grab at you, individuals picking you up out of your bed. Like, were you literally levitating? Were you off the bed in air? I imagine if you're saying that, you know, picking you up out of bed, because that's again, you know, the classic UFO abduction. You're levitated out of your bed. Did you ever? Have you ever had a UFO sighting or been abducted or anything like that by, you know, the classic UFO, or has it just been these shadow creatures? That'd be interesting to know as well. Sometimes I wish we had like a caller line. You know, you like have calls come in and people could just call into the show. I don't know how to figure that out, but
I'd love
I
to do
remember.
call-ins. You know, I appeared on another show that did do call-ins, and they use Skype.
Really?
They use Skype, and then
Ah,
they were able to pipe it in. I don't know how they did it, but
huh.
yeah, they would take calls. Conflict Radio is the name of the channel, but they do
Conflict
call-ins
radio.
with every show.
That's
Very good
interesting.
channel. About 50 grand in subscribers, 50K
Oh, nice. Yeah.
subscribers. Yeah. So yeah, they do call-ins though. I'm envious of it because I wouldn't mind doing call-ins, but I'd be so scared that people would come on and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna get your channel nuked. Here, let me say something terrible." You know,
Yeah. Well, that's the risk
that's
of
where you
doing
roll
it.
the
But
dice. You know, hopefully
mhm,
you get
yep,
callers that aren't
yep,
crazy, but. I don't
yep.
know. Fade to Black does it as well. I mean, they're on YouTube. They do
Oh
callers
yeah.
every Thursday night. They do Fader night.
Oh yeah, it's okay. I'll have to say I'll look into that Skype. I have to look into see how I could do that because that'd be kind of fun to do. But yeah, you're right. It is taking a risk because you don't know who's going to call in and say what. And
Yeah, you never know.
whoopsie. I guess you'd have to cut them off real quick and edit it, edit that part out of the video. But it's live, so it's kind of tough to do that. I remember this reoccurring nightmare that I always kept having. Where that they were in the house, the light switches wouldn't work.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, that is creepy. I realized that they are still with me. Ooh, but they only attack me when I'm at my lowest ebb. I actually had a nightmare of them the other night. Okay, so you're having reoccurring encounters here with the. Yeah, sorry, I hit the back button, kicked myself,
Oh, okay.
booted myself.
I didn't know what happened there.
Yeah, I booted myself out. Sometimes I do lose the. It's been a couple times where I've been on here and my internet's gone out. Thankfully, it's strong tonight, but it's gone out, and Drew had to take over for a little bit because it wasn't working. By the way, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know where Drew is. He's not responded since this afternoon, but he did say he was having a bit of a toothache problem on Twitter. I saw he was in some pain. He was hoping to see the dentist tomorrow, so he might not. He might not be making it tonight for that reason. So hopefully he gets that sorted out. But he did tweet that out earlier. So in the night times, I'd walk to the top of my stairs and look down. I'd hear them whispering at the bottom in the pitch of darkness for some unfathomable reason. I jumped down to them. So you were like beckoned to them or called out to them, and you actually heard them speaking. That's odd too. Years later, as an adult, I returned to the street and retraced my steps, found the very corner I hid in as a kid, looked and saw the exact same angle I remember from the experience. Is that Angel? Maybe Angel?
Angle, I think.
Is it Angle? It's exact. Saw the exact angle I remember from the experience as a kid seeing the UFO. Exact angle. Okay, maybe you were looking in a certain direction, certain angle, and so you did see a UFO. So interesting. See, there we go. So you had a UFO experience as a kid, and you started having shadow figures that would come to you at night, and that's persisted. See, there you go, a correlation of a UFO and a shadow figure. Again, this stuff seems to be related. Huh.
It's all connected.
Yeah. Seems these pesky UFOs are always around, these cryptids, and yeah, it's interesting. So, but Calamity, you're saying there's you haven't actually seen a physical. I mean, other than like a physical shadow, you haven't seen like a gray alien or some a creature, some type of entity other than just the shadow. Is that right? I only saw a UFO once though. Yeah, that's interesting. Huh. Setting up colors ahead of time would work. Yeah, I guess that would work. I'd have to have someone. Yeah, you'd have to screen them. I guess that. Yeah, you could do that. Screen them first. Yeah. Then I need someone like a call center.
You need a call screener.
Yeah. Then you're doing like coast to coast, basically. At that point, you're
doing George Norrie coast to coast. You're not doing Art Bell, because Art Bell didn't screen nobody.
No, he just had people calling in.
He was just like, we're going to talking to every crazy person there is out there. No screening nobody.
Though, wasn't it? I love listening to that. Best. You'd have the craziest people calling in, and
I still listen to old Art Bell here on YouTube. It's just great.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. However, I've had many variations of the nightmares. They were difficult because in the nightmare, I'd have my experience and then return to bed. So, so in your nightmare, you'd have your experience and then return to bed. So in the nightmare, you went back into the bed, or you woke up in the middle of it realizing you were somewhere else? Were you like sleepwalking, or were you taken somewhere else? And then you're kind of brought out of your nightmare and you go back to bed, or are you like, is it happening in your dream? The event is over and you go back to bed in your dream, and then you wake up and you're in bed. I mean, again, like if it's like you said, quote unquote nightmare, because it's probably is really happening to some extent. So when I woke up, you didn't know if it was a nightmare or not. Wow, man, very interesting. That's some. Yeah, that's some heavy stuff. Calamity, very interesting and heavy stuff there. Um, have you said you had a specialist that came into the house? Have you ever had someone try to, if it's some sort of demonic activity, exorcise a demon, or bless the house, or do the smudge it, or have you tried to pray, or God, ask Jesus, call on Jesus' name to have these things go away? It'd be interesting to try that, see if it works, or if it does anything for you. It's now, I don't know if you need to be a believer, if you need to have, like, if you need to have Christ, accept Christ for that to work. I'm not sure. I don't know.
There's a
I
story
don't
of a
know.
near-death experience from Howard Storm.
Oh yeah, I know his. Yeah, I know that story.
Yeah, and
You
he
go and
he was
tell it
the
though. Yeah, it's good.
atheist. He was the
Yeah.
atheist, and
Yeah.
he went to hell. But then he called on the name of Jesus and was rescued from hell and was put back in his body.
Right. Yeah. I think he actually got pulled up and talked to Jesus for a little bit. Right.
He did,
The
yeah,
story goes. Yeah.
because he was shredded apart by demons and
Right. They
laying
were
there in a
taunting
wreck.
him and beating him, and yeah.
Yeah, and then he started singing, "Jesus loves me, la la la.
You're right.
Jesus
Yeah.
loves me, la la la." Then Jesus came down, all the demons ran away. Jesus pulled him up, put him back together, and then he got to talk to him for a while. Him and some angels. And then he came back and became very devoted to spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
After his near-death experience.
Yeah, I've seen him talk about that, and I mean, he gets, he's in tears when he's talking about when Jesus, saved him and brought him out and talked to him. Just it brought him to tears. You can see the guy's emotions, and I mean, whatever you believe it. Like, he's not making this up. That he had his experience. You could just tell looking at him and hearing him and watching him talk about his story. He's recounting it. He's like living through it again. Yeah, very. Yeah, that's a really interesting, scary, and compelling story.
But he wasn't a believer, and it worked for him.
No, true. Yeah, he wasn't. Well, there's there's a few stories or people that I've read that do. I mean, this is very controversial, so I wouldn't like count on this, but whether or not you can be saved once you die or once you're in hell, if it's possible or not. I mean, according to that story, it seemed like he was. Now, I don't think he was totally brought down to hell yet. It seemed like he was like he was like going, they were dragging him or like pulling him along, but I don't think he actually got there yet. From what I remember, he was like in the hospital. He died. He had walked out of the hospital. He saw his body there, that whole thing. He like leaves into this dark area. And then these beings, these demons come and, like start taunting him and beating him and grabbing him and kind of pulling him along the way. And that's when, he started singing and calling out. He was kind of in darkness. But, the Bible does say outer darkness many times as being away from the Lord. So, yeah, but there are some people who believe that it might be possible to be saved out of hell, or at least at the final judgment. You might have to stay in hell until the final judgment, when hell itself is thrown into the lake of fire. Like the lake of fire is that's the end all be all. Like there's no getting out of there. But hell's a temporary holding place. So is it possible? I don't know. I'm not. I wouldn't count on it, but. Like that, yeah. His story is makes you wonder. Oh, most vivid experience I had was one of hands coming out of the wall to prod in the middle of the night. Often did. I turned and bit the hand. To this day, I remember feeling the feeling of my teeth sinking into the being's flesh. Oh, so this thing had like actual, yeah, interesting. The feeling of the little strands of sinew breaking under my teeth. So was it a shadowy hand? And it was physical though. In this case, it seems like, based on what you're saying there. Wow, that's really Now that's something, because that's not just a shadow in this case. Correct. One vivid experience I had was when I was 8 years old. I remember one of them picking me up out of bed, and I lost it. I lunged for it and began pounding and punching at it. So this thing's physical. You're hitting this thing. Wow. So what did it look like? Was it just a shadow, or was it solid? Could you sort of see through it like you can a shadow, or was it a solid, just a solid black entity? I remember straddling it, beating it over and over until I literally evaporated under me, and I landed on the carpet with a little thump. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. The hand tried to pull away, eventually it let go. Game Vet, welcome. Talk about shadow people right now, and Calamity's telling his story. Yes, it was very real and physical. So what did it look like? Totally, yes, a totally black being, opaque, not see-through. So there you go. What do you think of that, Pete? It's not just a shadow. It's a solid featureless being. This kind of sounds like the Slender Man in a way. But Slender Man has a suit, right? That's one of the shadow people. Slender Man and Hat Man. Let's talk about them. They were the kind of like two famous figures.
Well, the Slender Man's from Marble Hornets. That's just creepypasta. So I don't know. The idea might come into play where Slender Man now exists because he's a tulpa of some kind.
Right. Yeah, you created him with intentions of enough people
right.
believing
So
in him.
is Slender Man real now because now he's a tulpa, now he's real, now he's out on the loose, or is Slender Man just creepypasta to begin with?
Yeah.
And I lean in the direction of just being creepypasta to begin with.
That's interesting though. Can we create these figures by enough people believing that they're real, that they do become real? That's scary, but I wonder. What about the Hat Man?
Hat Man, I think, is related to the shadow people.
Yeah, it seems like it. He's pretty much a shadowy figure, except for the one defining characteristic of wearing the hat.
Exactly. So I think the Hat Man, you lump him in with the shadow people. What makes him different? I don't know. Why does the Hat Man stand out so much? It just does. It's just very unusual. Very unusual. High strangeness. High strangeness we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother, who I don't know if he's watching right. I might be watching, but I don't know if he remembers this. I should ask him if he remembers this story. But he when we were kids, he saw something. We were in our bedroom, and we were with as little kids, like we were probably, I don't know, 6 and 8 years old or something. He's 2 years younger than me, so we were young, and I was asleep, and he was in his bed, but I was asleep in mine, so I didn't see this or encounter this. But he remembers waking up in the middle of the night, and our door, we'd leave our bedroom door like half open, half closed. We kept it open just because we wanted to be, have our parents in case something happened, but we'd keep it half closed to keep the light from the hallway or whatever out too, so we could fall asleep. But he remembers waking up, and in the between, like where the wall is and where the door was half closed, so in between, like where the door is, there he saw what he described at the time as almost like a leprechaun type creature. Now he saw features, but he said it was like dark, dark clothes, sort of looked like a leprechaun type creature, but wearing a hat. But he described it as like a top hat of sorts. And it was kind of just looking over at him, like smirking or something, had like a kind of smirky, sinister, smirky look. And I think he closed his eyes, and then like kind of looked again, and it was gone. There was nothing there. And I remember like the year after that, I had been in the library, and I was looking at this book, and it was like a book of monsters or something like that, or kids' tales or something. And there was a picture of a creature that looked a lot like what he described. Now he says, he never had just seen that book before or anything. And I actually remember like looking to see if it was checked out, and it, like, cause he used to have the library card and it'd show who was checked out what, and, it didn't show any, like he never checked it out, and he doesn't remember ever reading it or seeing it, but it was a creature that looked very similar. Now I've looked again, later in life, and found there is like some kind of, creature that can be seen in children's rooms that wears like a top hat. And, he described it as like the Abraham Lincoln hat at the time. He was wearing an Abraham Lincoln hat. And, yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that's somehow related to shadow people. But in this case, it did have features. It looked like a goblin or something, leprechaun, or like the leprechaun, not like Lucky Charms, but like the Leprechaun movie. Not like Lucky.
Not like
like
Lucky, good old Lucky.
Yeah, not good old Lucky. Right. It's never. That's what I'm saying. It's never
horseshoes.
Yeah, it's never the good Lucky. You don't get Lucky from Lucky Charms. You get the freaking Warwick Davis from the Leprechaun movies. It's never good entities. But have you ever heard anything like that? The top hat kind of creature looks like a leprechaun.
No, but I do have a leprechaun story.
You do? Oh, so share.
I interviewed this paranormal investigation group years back, and they told me of a particular case where a man had a problem with leprechauns in a tree. So he spent all of his time out there trying to get pictures of these leprechauns. And the more he was out there with the tree, with the camera, pestering these leprechauns, the more poltergeist activity he was experiencing in his house.
Wow, really?
So the paranormal group was like, listen, you got to leave an offering for these leprechauns. You got to stop trying to take their picture. You need to leave them alone. You need to try to mend this fence. So he puts out a bowl of fruit for the leprechauns or whatever, something like that. And he stops taking their pictures. But instead, he has a buddy of his come over and try and take the pictures now.
He's just trying to trade off. He's not really.
So he's just trying to trade off. So the leprechaun activity just kept getting worse and worse. And the paranormal group decided to stop working with him because he wasn't listening to them.
Wow. Why did he call? It seemed like he wanted it to happen. So, what? Now, did the friend who started? Did he start experiencing anything at his home?
Or was no, it just... but the activity wouldn't stop in the homeowner's house. So it was his way. It was his slick kind of workaround. We're like, okay, well now I'm not the one taking your pictures, so stop wrecking my house.
Wow, that's crazy. Where was this? Was this in America or was it in Ireland or?
It was in Pennsylvania.
It was in Pennsylvania. The leprechauns in Pennsylvania. Wow, that's interesting. I
you don't think leprechauns stowed away on boats to the New World too?
Yeah, well, I mean, or unless they were already here. This could be. Yeah, who's to say they're just in one area? These things, they probably are all over the world. I mean, they are, in a lot of cases, these civilizations or countries just have different names, but they're basically the same thing. The elves, they're elves all over the world. It's just they're called different titles, but they're usually described pretty similar. So that's interesting. Leprechauns in Pennsylvania, and they were living in someone's tree.
Living in a tree.
Sounds like they. See, but again, it's not the friendly Keebler elves, is it? They're like
ghosts. They're like spirits of the elements.
Yeah, so
they're like worse than ghosts.
What do you think?
Well, ghost is a dead person. Elemental spirit is something entirely different. They exist as part of the makeup of the world, but they're out there, and I think they're responsible for the missing 411 phenomenon.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. The missing 411. Yeah, because I do wonder if there's not only UFO activity going on there, or Bigfoot activity going on there, but is it some sort of like elemental elves, goblins, shadow people? Shadow people. I mean, they've seen before. There's one area in Northern California that has a history of people seeing, when you walk in one area of this forest. I forget. I did a video on this too. I don't remember the name of the area now, but you look up on a cliff and you see at certain times of day, you'll see, this group of 3 or 4 shadow people that appear. To the description, they're, like 7 or 8 feet tall. They're kind of tall, but they they always show up there in this one area out in the wilderness. So, yeah, you do wonder, do they have something to do with these missing 411s? Because they're apparently not just in people's homes, but they're out there as well. And do you think there's any truth to the leprechauns and the pot of gold? Is there anything with the pot of gold, or is that just a story that humans made up to go along with it?
I don't know. I don't think these tree leprechauns had any gold, so perhaps it's probably just a human story.
Yeah, yeah. They have to have some reason to blame these leprechauns for all the mischief they cause. So it's, they're going after my gold. That's what it is.
Army gold.
Army gold, or in the case of the Leprechaun movie, they would slow him down. In the first Leprechaun movie, I love this. Always gave me a laugh. They would slow him down by throwing shoes at him, and he'd have to stop and shine the shoes. He couldn't stop himself from, having to shine shoes. So they were running away throwing shoes. I was like, "Oh, the shoes! I have to shine the shoes." That was their way to get away from him. Just throw some shoes at him. He's got to shine them. Which is derogatory towards all leprechauns, but so there's no good leprechauns. You think they're all mischievous and evil? Is that elementals in general? You think they're all kind of doing their own thing, and if humanity gets too close or messes around with them, or is their nature to be mischievous?
I think they're antagonistic towards humans. I think a lot of these things are. I think a lot of these things are just antagonistic towards humans.
Yeah, there's some, it's some people. There's a belief out there that their spirits or souls that have decided to be that. They've decided to be incarnate as elementals because they are not yet ready to be humans. Humans are, have to suffer more. There's more we have to deal with, and they don't have the stresses of that. So their souls before they incarnate. Now, I don't believe in this, but this is, a theory, is that they have chosen to be that way. And, hopefully after that life, maybe they'll, decide to give it a try and be a human. That's like a reincarnation theory, which I don't believe in reincarnation, but just going with this theory, that they are somehow jealous of humans because they want our experience. They want to be like us, but they just don't have the courage to, they chose to be that. And that's why they kind of are mischievous or kind of try to mimic us, in ways. They try to be like us because they want to, but they don't have the courage to. So therefore they're jealous of us. What do you think of that? Have you ever heard that before?
I think there's something to that. There's always that idea that, and that's kind of an aspect of the Christianization of all these kind of creatures. The idea that they're jealous of us, they're jealous of our salvation, something they don't have. Oh, okay. Because for the Fae folk, at least, their origin is this. There were a third of angels who did not fight. And so were cast out of heaven to wander the earth. And these became the Fae folk. That's the mythology. So you have these angels that weren't willing to pick a side during the war in heaven, and because of that lost their estate and now live as the Fae. They're stuck here on earth. Whether or not that makes them kind of like highborn spirits of some kind, I could see them wanting to stay to the remote and desolate places, not wanting to be disturbed by people, and then when they are, they don't act accordingly. And then you get the missing 411.
Yeah. Do you think that they are the elementals, or do you think that the elementals are a creation of these?
I think the elementals are separate. I think the elementals are part of nature. I think you have your earth spirits, your spirits of trees, spirits of rocks. I think they exist out there like that. I think they are energies, non-human intelligences, if you will.
Yeah. Non-human intelligence. Yeah, because clearly they have intelligence, and they're, they know of our world. They're aware of humanity. They're either. Do you think they live on the same plane, or are they popping in and out Do they have the
I think they
ability to
pop in
pop
and
in and out?
out of some kind of parallel world. Same with
Hmm.
the jinn,
Well,
who could all
yeah.
be the same creature for all we know. The
Well, yeah, the
jinn,
jinn
somebody
are
mentioned this in chat. We were talking about pre-Adamites. The jinn could be the pre-Adamites.
yeah. Well, there's a belief that the demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, the giants that were killed in the flood, and that since they have a soul but not a spirit, they're stuck to wander the earth, and that's where the demons come from. And the jinn could be similar to that. Yeah, they could be a pre-Adamic, because they're also mischievous tricksters, I believe.
Oh, they're out and out antagonistic to humans.
Mm-hmm.
In some stories, you'll hear tales where the jinn might fall in love with a human being and they might pursue a relationship, but that always ends bad for both sides.
Yeah, yeah. I can't see that going well for for anyone.
No.
Yeah, yeah. There was a story. My wife's, my wife's, my dad, my father-in-law. He was telling me a story of one of his cousins that this is in the Philippines, and they have a version of like a gnome or an elf that that exists there, and they're it's like all elementals. They're very in tune with nature and have the ability to I guess speak to animals, have control of animals and stuff. And this creature, which was small, like a few feet, I mean, I think it was a few feet tall, so we're not talking like little miniature things, but a few feet tall, had fallen in love with my father-in-law's cousin, one of his cousins,
Mm.
and would visit the house continuously and leave like gifts, basically flowers and things, and there'd be like blooming and birds would appear all over the house, just very odd things that were not natural to life, and would leave these things. And I think, oh, you know what it's called? I think it's the duende. I believe it's the duende is the name of these creatures. If
Okay.
Cavatinho was in the chat, he'd probably know, but or if Drew were here, he might know. But yeah, I think it was the Duende. I think that's the name of these like elves, and I would leave these gifts because it had fallen in love, and they had to get basically like a medicine man, I guess of sorts, to who was able to communicate with these beings, who could see them, communicate with them, had that somehow had that like third eye, I guess, opened, and was able to talk to these things. So he had one of these go to the house, and wait for the duende to get there, and he basically talked to it and said, "Look, you can't pursue this anymore. You got to leave her alone. She doesn't want to be with you." And it ended up leaving, and didn't ever come back. But this was an ongoing thing, and they had to like get some specialists, so to speak, to have it end.
Some supernatural help to deal with a supernatural problem.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I think about going into business for that.
Yeah, well, that's a Ghostbusters.
You
Maybe
know,
start your own Ghostbuster business.
just do all kinds of problems. Like whatever kind of supernatural problem you got, I can just handle it. Just take care of it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got the book. So I'll just look it up in a book. We'll just handle it. We'll knock it out, lickety split. What do we need to do? Get a wizard in here. We'll get you a wizard. I'll just take my small portion of the fee. I'll pay off the wizard, and then your problems are solved.
Yeah. Lose some weight, esoteric weightlifting.
Esoteric weightlifting, wizard fees, wizard finder fees.
Creepy little bookbusters are. Yeah. Have you met with any, or interviewed any wizard, or a
I interviewed a couple
self-proclaimed
witches
wizard?
once.
How'd
I
that
interviewed a
go?
couple witches one time. They were very nice ladies. They invited us to their Ostara ritual,
Hmm.
and we got to see their big celebration for the return of spring. We talked to them about being in a coven and their understanding of
Hmm.
Wicca. It was a pretty good interview. It was for a different channel than Creepy Little Book. It was for an old one I was on. I don't think the video is still up, but it was an interesting time. It was definitely an interesting time. I've never interviewed an actual wizard, although I do have one that comes around on my shows every once in a while.
In the chat,
Yeah, in the chat.
what does he say?
Oh, his name is Milton Knowles, the Insane Witch King.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a wizard. He's down in New Zealand, I believe.
oh, New Zealand.
Shout out Milton Knowles, the Insane Witch King. How you doing, man?
Milton, yeah, down in New Zealand. Well, New Zealand's a very mystical place. So they shot the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings all down there for for a reason.
Yeah, there you go.
What do you think of Middle
Weird
Earth? You
stuff.
think that's again some based on some sort of idea of reality? Is this the elemental? Is it a dimensional
I don't know. Was there an
place?
ancient history that was very different than ours? Was there a time before time when wizards roamed this countryside and there were hobbits and elves and weird creatures like that? Yeah, it was
Yeah,
called the antediluvian world. It was before the flood. Before the
yeah.
flood, there was all kinds of weird stuff going on. Weird animals, weird people, creatures like elves and wizards, and all that stuff was happening. There
Dragons,
was
which I think persisted.
1,665 years between the end of Eden and the flood of Noah. How much technology can be developed in 1,665 years? If you think they weren't doing nothing, especially when the fallen angels were whispering technology into people's ears back then, no
Mhm.
way. No way.
Yeah,
They were far
yeah,
ahead of their time. Far ahead of their time.
yeah. I 100% agree with you. There was technology and mathematics that were far beyond, I think, what we have now. I don't even think we're at the level now that they were at then. I think it was different. I
No,
think they were
it was
using
like
different
He-Man times,
technologies.
man. They had swords and they had lasers and they had flying machines and they had wizards and the whole nine. Like it was really that's what was going on in and I don't think the Bible makes that clear enough.
Yeah,
But
no,
that's
it
what was
doesn't. I
going
mean,
on.
the Book
All
of
manner
Enoch
of
talks
weird
about it
stuff was
more.
going on. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Book of
yeah.
Enoch. That's the
Book
really
of
the
Enoch
fallback.
talks about it. Yep, that talks about it more. The Bible doesn't really. It just gives a very brief, kind of
You
synopsis
get one
of
passage in
the
Genesis 6,
basics.
but
Yeah,
they
yeah,
just cover it to cover it, and that's what you get. It's like,
yeah,
well, we got to mention it. Put it in one passage in the beginning. Okay.
yeah. Oh, there's Drew.
Should we mention a time there were giants all over the place?
Yeah, I
Hello,
mean,
good
right.
sir.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, listen. I apologize, gents.
That's okay.
I
That's okay.
I've been on pain meds. I don't know if you saw my tweet,
I did. I
Jason.
told everyone in the chat about it that you were maybe not going to make it because of your tooth. Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that. So
and
now, I mean, I'm surprised you're here at all. How you doing?
and it knocked me right out. so
Yeah, yeah.
so
Well, at least you have the pain meds to help out.
yeah, yeah. Thankfully, I have those for my issue with my back, and who knows that they were going to save me from an issue with my tooth.
Yeah, jeez. It's good.
So
It's good to have that
it
around
makes it
sometimes.
manageable. So,
Yeah.
Pete, it's an honor to be on a stream with you finally, sir.
Well, it was nice to meet you, Drew. How do you do?
Oh, I'm here. It's what an interesting subject, eh?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
we've
talking
run the
about
whole
oh man,
gamut
all over.
tonight.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we've been all over. Talking about everything. But
Oh
right now we're
wow,
talking
wow,
about
yeah,
the where we're basically talking about we went everywhere, but we directly went from shadow people into elementals
yeah.
and talking about the lost history of the antediluvian world and the pre-Adamic world and the technologies back then. And Ginger Viking Jesus makes a good point that the loss of the Library of Alexandria set us back at least a millennia.
Yeah.
I think they probably had a lot of documents and scrolls that were lost or taken. I'm sure there, I would not doubt that those exist and they're probably in the vaults of the Vatican, but, that not all that stuff was destroyed. I think a lot of that stuff was probably hidden from, from everyday man into the
Did
secret societies and,
well did
things like that.
well did we get Pete covered on the staples of this show? Did you talk about the Nephilim?
Oh, he's done well. He's done videos on the Nephilim and
Okay.
Book of Enoch. Yeah,
So
yeah,
so we covered the Nephilim. There we go. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah. Definitely covered it. And we're talking about how the Genesis chapter 6 doesn't just kind of mentions this brief thing about giants. And you have to really go to the Book of Enoch to get more information on it. Also, in the writings of Josephus, who wrote the history of the Jews, he was writing first century. He talks about these bones, these giants that were on display in Jerusalem at the time, openly on display.
Yes.
And I mean, so you got this in the book of, and this was a historical book. This wasn't, this isn't like divine. This isn't like written as the Bible or supposed to be taken as, this was just a guy who was hired to write historical truths of what the Jews had gone through and their experience and everything. And he was writing about these giant bones that were on display in Jerusalem. Well, how do you account for that? Where's history talking about that? Where's academia? Where's science talking about that?
Did you introduce him to our favorite Bigfoot researcher lady?
Oh no. No, we didn't. We didn't. Janet or Janice? Janice
from the Muppets.
Janice.
Botox.
Yeah, Botox Janice. No, yeah, we haven't. I don't have that clip.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, that they hide this stuff from you, but then you get these little, you get these passages here and there, and especially in a historical document that talk about this stuff. Pete, what do you think about like the minotaurs, centaurs, these Roman mythical?
Line them up, I'll fight them all.
He's like, put me in the gladiatorial arena.
Yeah. I'm swole now. I don't know if everybody's heard.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm fighting gladiator style. I want to take on the minotaurs. The minotaurs. I think all of these things are an example of the chimerical beasts that were created at the time of these Nephilim and this genetic interference with whatever was going on Earth. The Book of Enoch says they sinned against the creatures of the sea, the animals on the land, and the birds of the air. And they did all kinds of genetic experiments to create all kinds of weird things. So you see all weird chimerical animals, hybrid creatures like minotaurs. So yes, I think there's something to all of that.
Yeah. Speaking of Pete, what was your take on that video that was circulating around about a week or two ago with that strange creature that looked like a combination of a pig and a human?
Oh yeah. Did you see that? We covered that on the show. Good night, Calamity. If you're still there, thank you so much
I saw that
for joining us and sharing your story. Yeah. Red Gaze, what's up, Red Gaze? Howdy to you. Howdy to you. Yeah, you didn't see that, Pete?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
It was.
It looked like it looked very genuine.
So. Yeah, it did. It was either a very deformed pig of sorts, but I mean, the thing didn't look like fully pig, or it was some. Yeah. So okay, that's good, Drew, that you brought that up, because that was the next thing I wanted to ask Pete.
Yeah, because he was mentioning chimeras.
Right. Yeah, and this stuff happened in the ancient times, right? And as prophecy says, that Jesus said it'll be like his apostles are asking him, what's it going to be like in the end times when you come back? How will we know what's going to be like? And he said, one of the things he says, amongst the many things he describes, he says it'll be like the days of Noah. And many people look at that and think, oh, so it's going to be like, the earth's going to be sinful. People are going to be sinning, all this stuff, because that's why God destroyed the earth, right? People were evil. No, that's not why God destroyed the earth. That's, that's not right. That's not the right view. It was way, way more than that. It was that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. That there was a cross-contamination. There was breeding with this DNA genetic code that was not human. And that's what had to be wiped off the earth. It wasn't just the humans were bad. It's the humans weren't even all human. Noah was perfect in his generations. That doesn't mean he was perfect, sinless, because he was not. It means that he was genetically perfect. He was human. There was no trace of the DNA of the Nephilim. So if you go along with that theory, and it talks about the end, you see, we have the technology that you can, they're changing genetics. They're messing around with the gene. They're decoding and recoding. And now you have the CRISPR-Cas9, which is basically like a home kit. You can edit this stuff, not easily, because it still takes a lot of training, but you can edit it at home. You don't need like a huge scientific lab. It's becoming easier to do this stuff. Do you see a connection there? Do you think we're going to start seeing, these kind of chimeras.
You're always going to find a weirdo who wants to turn themselves into something strange. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's always going to be weird. Like, think of the tattooed guy, Enigma, the guy who looks like a puzzle piece. He was on the X-Files.
Oh,
Right,
yeah. Remember that.
That guy's really tattooed up like that. So there's people out there that are going to do weird stuff to their bodies. And if that comes down to people making themselves mutants with CRISPR technology, then yeah, that's going to happen too. So don't be surprised. It's the end of the world, everybody. Buckle up. Get some flavored spring water and enjoy the ride. Like, it's the end of times. It's just like we were talking about. It's all over, man. It's time to wash the slate clean and rewrite the script. God's going to come back, and I hope he does so in a hail of fire and brimstone. And then we can all go screaming into hell together.
Well, yeah, it is said that he will come back the next time he, changes the world. It's not going to be through a flood, but it will be through fire. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think
Wormwood's going to come screaming out of the sky and poison the rivers. The beast is going to rise up out of the sea.
Yeah,
it's all over.
Are you aware of the asteroid that's headed our way? And I believe it's 2029.
Apophis?
Originally, NASA said it was Apophis. Yeah,
Apophis.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Do you see a connection there? Yeah, it's interesting about that. Well, the name alone, but beyond that, this thing, it could be wormwood. There's do you know the Essene people who are the writers of the Dead Sea Scrolls? They had their own prophecies. Yeah, they had their own prophecies that line up with the Bible, but they actually go into more detail than some of the Bible passages do about certain things. They had a calendar that they kept that was based on the solar calendar. So it's like the one we have, the Gregorian. It wasn't based on the Jewish calendar, which was based on lunar cycles, which they believed was incorrect. They believed that they were off. That's why they left Jerusalem and went out to the wilderness. They believed the Pharisees and they were corrupt in their thinking. They were children of darkness, they called them, as they viewed themselves as the children of the light. They had their own calendar, and they had on their calendar the end of the age, which they actually called the age of grace. This is before Jesus. It was like right before Jesus, but it was before Jesus. And they called this next age that we were going to enter into the age of grace. And the end of the age and the beginning of the next one would start in the year 2025, which is now just a few years away. There's been people who have taken their dates, looked at the calendar, and counted 3.5 years from 2025. I forget which date in 2025. It's one of the high holy days, and I think it's the fall festival. It might be the Yom Teruah. I forget which day it is, but they've counted 3.5 years because there's a 7-year tribulation period in the Bible. 3.5 years is when the Antichrist takes over, and that's when wormwood happens, and that leads to the same day, Friday the 13th, ironically, in 2029, when Apophis is supposed to make a near miss. They're saying right now. First, NASA said it was going to hit us. There was a good chance it was going to hit us. Now they're saying it's going to miss us, but things could change. And it's interesting how those dates, line up.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm not sure, what, I don't know. Could we be looking at wormwood? And if so, we're three some years away would be the beginning of the tribulation if things go, that way. So I don't know. It's interesting.
It is all, it's all a real sticky wicket, man, especially when you start dealing with prophetic stuff like that. I remember as a kid, I used to tune into Jack Van Impe, and him and Rexella would tell the tale of how the world was ending back then. They'd pull up the headlines and tell you why it was all over and how soon Russia was going to invade Israel, and it would be the start of Armageddon. Oh, praise Jesus, Rexella. Oh, amen, Jack. It's coming. Jesus is coming in a hail of nuclear fire.
Yep. They had like 80 reasons why the world was going to end in 1980 or something like that. There's been a lot in the last few decades, but I mean, the thing everyone points to when it comes to that is the regathering of Israel, into the land. that was, that's the mark where they're like, okay, this is the prophetic countdown to the end times. Like, it couldn't have happened before that because Israel had to be back in the land. But once they're back in the land, you're at like a march until the end times, to the tribulation period. But I mean, I don't know. You look now, and I guess every generation looks and sees this, but I see things lined up more so than any other time in history, especially now, especially the last couple of years. Like, we seem to be a fast, pace. And like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, there is a plan that has been decades in the making for this kind of thing. You wonder who's telling who's calling the shots here. It's we mentioned the families, some of the families that are high up, they're involved in stuff, but I mean, are they pulling the strings, or are they getting told, or is something whispering in their ear what to do and how to do it? I don't know. But yeah. Drew, have you ever seen a shadow person?
I thought that arguably I've seen those things. I because there's been unexplained like instances where I've seen shadowy figures at night. A couple times in my home. And this was probably when I was younger, but I didn't really know what to make of it at the time. This was before I even understood what the phenomena of shadow people really were. But here we are now. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. But I know that some people have reported, violent manifestations of shadow people. And
yeah, we had one in the chat talking about it earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Some very physical things that happened. I mean, he was physically, grabbed, beaten by this thing, hit, picked up, levitated, and he was able to fight back. He said he, reached out and bit it and pounded on it. So this thing was like more physical than shadow.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't want to encounter a violent shadow person. That seems like a bad deal to get into. I wouldn't want to play that game one at all. Yeah. Not even if you come out the winner.
Well, Pete, what did you make of this phenomena? Did it strike you as demonic or?
Yeah, I think it's demonic. I think there's something definitely demonic to it. It's either that or it's a naturally occurring bleed through from some other dimension. Maybe occasionally the windows between worlds are real thin and we perceive other things from other places that way. Maybe they perceive us in the same manner.
Halloween night's supposed to be the thinning of the veil, isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you think it's a more of a demonic manifestation.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember the thing that turned me off from occultism was, oh God, at some point in time, everybody dabbles in the occult or gets curious about it. The thing is I remember clearly, messing with a copy of the Necronomicon buddy of mine had, and this was back when we were just in the 10th grade, and was over my buddy's house, and we were down in the basement and set up this area and had candles and the whole 9 yards, and we were doing different incantations from there, and we ended up conjuring up something that I just could not explain. And, it started to come through, and we're just like, yeah, we got to figure out how to put this back. And that was the last time. I know that was scary enough that that kept me from ever messing with the occult again.
Yeah.
I'm not a practitioner. I'm never about to go circle drawing in my basement or anything like that. But I do enjoy researching the occult and the esoteric. It is one of my biggest pastimes, is to delve into this weird stuff and the rituals that go along with it. That doesn't mean I'm about to do any of them. I just like to know how they work.
Well, no, exactly. I mean, there's a definite difference between, looking into researching, understanding something, and delving into practicing and, with the, like you said, the intent, right? We were talking about the intent earlier, with the intent of having something pop up or, bringing something about. I mean, there's definitely a difference in researching it and practicing.
I mean, yeah, and I think we took curiosity and research a little too far. So, thankfully that nothing came of that, but it was a scary enough incident that I got to thank it in a way for pushing me closer to strengthened belief in God. So.
I mean, I would say anything's gonna, wake you up to the realities of the Bible or God. It would be having an encounter like that,
Yes,
realizing something's is true. Yeah, I mean, that's got to do it, yeah, and it's a good thing you stopped it before it went too far as well.
yes.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we're going to bring the show to an end because I know, Pete, you've got a show starting shortly.
Yeah, I'll be going live at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Halloween show. We're going to do some H.P. Lovecraft tonight.
Nice.
Going to have some short story time. Going to delve into a little bit of that, talk about it, see how people feel. So if you're inclined to check it on out, then I recommend you go on over, subscribe to the Creepy Little Book, set your notifications, get ready to go, because at 1 a.m. we will start. Now, I normally don't do a weekend show anymore, but it is a holiday, so I'm making a special exception. We're going to go live 1 a.m.
Very nice, very nice. And you're the channel, if you guys are not subscribed already, the channel is in the description, so you can go check it out there. I'm sure RR or Tina, someone will put it in the chat too, but it's in the description for the video. So go over there and click that description. Merry couple of days before Christmas. I mean, it's amazing. We're not that far away. We're another month. It's going to be Thanksgiving, and then boom, it's Christmas time. They're already selling in the stores. They've already got Christmas stuff on the shelves. It's like Halloween's not even over yet. And I mean, it's been on the shelves for a couple weeks now, and you've already got Christmas stuff here. So, they're chomping at the bit. They can't wait to get that stuff. Let me see if I can turn my camera on. So if it's not going to be black and white right now, because I don't have the stream there. You guys, does that work?
Yeah.
It seems okay.
Yeah, you are.
It's not black and white, but
But again, Pete, it was great meeting you in person, per se.
Oh, yes, it's nice to meet you too, man.
I just
I watch you guys every Sunday.
Yeah, I just wish I had been here quite.
Thanks,
sooner.
Pete.
I just lurk in the background.
Yeah, that's lurkers are always welcome.
But
the more lurkers, the better.
But should we initiate Pete to the show meme before we go out?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Let's play that real quick. Yeah, this is our Bigfoot. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, this is our friend Maria.
There we go. Okay, this is.
Do you even like? I mean, that's crazy playing that stuff. I mean, because you don't even know like what the thing's gonna do.
It's dangerous stuff.
I mean, are you going to trigger it? Are you going to make it mad?
You don't want the Bigfoot to get all triggered. That's not
no,
good.
Because if a 1,000-pound plus creature charges you, it's probably not going to end well.
Look at what happened to Peter Kane.
Yeah, it's not a good scenario. I mean, look what just a bear could do to you. I mean, this thing's bipedal, so it can run. Well, I don't know if it can run faster than a bear. Maybe not. But
listen, there's a video of Peter Kane dog training. The man was confronted by a Bigfoot in a dry creek bed, and it did not end well for him. And he tells the story through tears, through sobbing and tears. He tells the story of what happened to him in that dry creek bed on that fateful day. So check it out. Peter King Dog Training. He's a weird guy, but he's got a lot of Bigfoot evidence. He's the president of the Bigfoot Association, last I heard.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll have to do a Bigfoot panel together, guys, one of these times.
Yeah, we always love doing.
Because I know Pete, you've had some excellent stuff on Sasquatch before.
I love a good Sasquatch 'em. They're the best. I mean, they're just the best. I always said when I first started the channel, I was like, what are you talking about? Bigfoot UFOs. Why?
Yeah.
Because you can't be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can't be wrong.
Can't be wrong. Yeah. That's a good point. Well, thank you so much again, Pete. It's
thank you guys for having me. It's always a blast.
A great Halloween show. Yeah, we ran the gamut of topics as we usually do. So
yeah, you are a fountain of knowledge, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Really thank you.
Indeed, can't say enough good things about you. So, guys, go check out his show tonight in an hour or so. About an hour.
An hour.
It's almost midnight there. So yeah, about an hour.
1 hour. Yeah. 1 hour to showtime, everybody. 1 hour.
Well, I'll let you rest your voice.
Gotta go make a thumbnail.
Oh yeah, okay. You gotta do that too. Set up your stream.
Pete's one of the best on YouTube, folks. I mean, he's a humble guy, but he is one of the best on YouTube. And
thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
I've been watching Creepy Little Books since even before Jason and I got started. You know, that's one of the things that
you've been doing it for a long time.
I always watched because well, Pete knows I'm in his chat when I can be from time to time, and I talk to him and Tina and that crew over there. Great folks. So.
Yeah, a lot of love from the chat for you, of course.
Oh, thank you, everybody.
As well. Yeah.
So kind. You're so kind, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you for stopping by. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We will see you next week, most likely. November. The year's almost over.
Yeah.
So can't believe it. It's gone. Time goes too fast.
By.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, thanks, everyone. So we'll see you next week with another topic. And until then, be excellent to each other. Party on. And travel safely, my friends. Happy Halloween.